Welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How's everybody doing tonight? Let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to check this out, even though you missed the live party. Guys, that is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe button and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. Let's also say thank you to my6shirt.com. Whatever your persuasion, they've got something for you. And of course, it is the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at my6shirt.com. All right. What is good? Welcome to the party. Please hit that like and subscribe. You know I do it for you. So we have quite an interesting show for you guys tonight. You definitely saw the thumbnail and the title. We are definitely talking about UFOs and aliens, but we're not veering too far outside of what we normally do because we are going to be talking with a good friend of the channel, Peter Boghossian. Dr. Peter Boghossian. We've done a lot with his street epistemology videos where, you know, there's the prompt and then there's the neutral line, the slightly agree or disagree, strongly agree or disagree. But this is his actual podcast. And he has on Michael Shermer, the guy behind Skeptic magazine. And they talk about a bunch of cool stuff. Shout out to Daniel in the building. Welcome to the party. Got to use that sunscreen, bro. They even got Bob Marley. But as always, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
On my brain. So here's what I don't understand. So in the skeptic and atheist movement, a kind of new religion grew from within that movement. Mm-hmm. The wokeism, the critical social justice. Here's what I'm trying to figure out.
Shout out to the substitution
hypothesis for a moment.
What's good, brother? Welcome to the party.
Why is it that some people seem immune to these ideas, to like whatever's morally fashionable? Like, why is it that some people are just not susceptible? And I have two things going on in my brain. I'm trying to say this without being self-aggrandizing or arrogant. And I'm trying to say this without flattering you because I don't mean it that way. Like, why is it that
don't be nice.
You, for example, have not succumbed to this alien craze? Or that you haven't succumbed to this wokeism?
Some of it's age.
Well, it might be age, but it also has to do with critical thinking because we know there's tons of people who are aged up, who are way into the BS. Hey, we got Bailey in the building. Welcome to the party. Promised I was going to get a thumbs down, and here she is. Another shout out to Lil Toes. Sorry, I didn't want to, stop the whole show. Said, okay, so we have our current running poll. Does intelligent life exist outside the Earth in the universe? And Lil Toes says yes, but still Christian. Okay. That's definitely something that we're going to be diving into. And shout out to Unwanted Foe. Welcome to the party. Said time to party with the aliens. Correct you are, sir. Correct you are. Back to Dr. Peter Boghossian and Michael Shermer.
Yeah, I'm 68. I'm a baby boomer. Most of the wokeism stuff is a Gen Z, people born after 1996.
I don't think that's true. There's way too many, at least Gen Xers. Who are down with this stuff. There's plenty who are not, but to say after 96, nah, I'm not that way.
And we know there's huge generational differences on trends like this, what's fashionable, what people want to get into. And this is definitely a Gen Z or a late millennial movement. You could track it from when it started, say 2014, 2015, when it migrated into college campuses. This is about when Gen Zers started to go to college. And it continues now.
It can't just be age, though.
It's not just age.
It's not. Yeah. And so Bailey says, as a Christian, you can answer yes to that poll, even if you don't believe in aliens, since most consider God to be intelligent life. Well, there you go. That is a wonderful way to interpret the question. Beautiful. And see, guys, there's a reason I use the words that I use in the polls. Thank you, Bailey.
Perfect. There's multiple factors, also politics. Again, most, half of Americans are conservative.
Yeah.
right? 75 million people voted for Trump, as he reminds us constantly. So it can't be that everybody has fallen for this crazy woke cult or whatever. They haven't. Most people haven't. I mean, half the country thinks anything liberal is crazy. And then
True.
within liberalism, anybody like who's, let's say, Gen X or older thinks most of this has gone too far. So we're really talking about
Fair enough.
a not very big movement that's actually very vocal and gets a lot of media attention. So it feels like it's this huge thing.
And that's what we've been talking about directly for the last few weeks, but really in general, since I started the channel, that the woke mob is a very small group of people that's very loud, and most people just are not part of that. They just don't disavow it, and therefore, by default, get lumped in. And they do hold the responsibility of allowing woke ideology to persist by not pushing back. But they're not the ones who are cheering for it. They're not the ones who are pushing it. They're just going along with it. And there's levels to this. There's levels to this. So while we can say it's certainly a bad thing to let that happen, it's a worse thing to be pushing the ideology.
The world's ending. And you hear this on conservative circles all the time on Fox News. And so, oh my God, this is happening and they're tearing America apart. We're about to collapse. No, we're not. There's some exaggeration there.
You sure about that? You sure about that? So a little bit of context for my knowledge of Michael Shermer. As most of you know, I am an atheist, and although I very much appreciate Christian values, I am an atheist. Grew up Catholic, was confirmed in the Methodist Church, but eventually had my own journey to atheism. And Michael Shermer was one of the big names going around. They were talking about how the atheism thing was in vogue. He was a big name and a big part of that. Like I said, he started Skeptic magazine, and as a skeptic, somebody who is willing to say at any point, I don't know, but I'm willing to change my mind. Show me the information. I've always had his respect, but I haven't really heard much from him over the last 10 years, so I really don't know where his politics are.
So is it? So you're saying there's a suite of factors like age, politics, but even conservatives are affected by wokeism. Even religions are affected by.
Yeah, so atheism went through several movements in the 90s. It wasn't very big at all, and the culture wars weren't focused on science and religion until late 90s. And then Richard's book came out in 2006, The God Delusion. That kind of launched, oh my God, the atheism movement's going to get huge.
Yeah, and so he's talking about Richard Dawkins' book, the God Delusion, and that was really, like he said, kind of kicked off a whole movement that I'm sure you guys remember with like Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens when he was alive.
And then very quickly, within months, there was a cut between the militant atheists and the more conciliatory atheists.
Right.
Hitch and Dawkins, and you got to get in there and be a bulldog and rip these idiots apart, and then everybody else is like, well, no, we should be nice about it.
Early on, I was the former, and then I realized, that's probably not the best way to either live my life or get people to understand what I'm thinking. So then I figured, maybe we should be nice.
And then there was another cut around 2009 of the Atheist Plus,
Right.
Plus being social justice, and that made it purely political.
A schism.
Yep. That's a big thing that I forget to talk about is atheism plus, because all the time I talk about how atheism is not an ideology. There is no tenets of atheism, but atheism plus, like Shermer just said, is basically just the non-belief in God and wokeism. So the plus is a really big plus. And at the time, people like me weren't paying close enough attention or didn't realize how big that plus was going to become.
In which that was really a kind of woke movement back then.
Yes, that was the earliest stages
Proto
of that
woke movement.
Yeah. But actually, some of that you can see earlier threads in humanism, because when I, kind of came of age in the 70s and 80s, it's like, well, okay, I'm no longer religious. I was a evangelical Christian for 7 years.
Pepperdine.
I'm not doing that now. So what's my worldview? Well, science. Yeah, but science is kind of more of a method. What's my worldview of what I do believe?
And that is the gap that we need to fill to this day. They don't believe in a religion, but are moral individuals. Where do we fit in?
Atheism isn't a worldview at all. It's just, I just don't believe in God. There's not, Well, what do you believe in? Okay,
Yes.
well, so humanism, universal human rights, for example, is something that we're positively in support of. But when I joined these humanist groups, they had like the little boxes you tick. These are the things we believe.
Yeah.
And they were mostly liberal political positions. It's like, okay, what if I'm on board with half, but not the other half? Or with 10
Straight to jail.
of the 12 boxes I tick, am I a humanist? And so then it became very restrictive there. And I thought, oh, this is a big mistake. That we should be a big tent that everybody can join. Liberals, Democrats, Republicans, anybody.
Kind of like I talk to you guys about all the time, right? Maybe it should be an American identity and not a Democrat or Republic or religious or non-religious. Maybe it should be American.
And but I think this actually happens, back to the larger picture, to all social movements. Are you a pure Marxist? Are you a Leninist Marxist, a Stalinist Marxist, a Trotskyist?
You think it's a nest?
Hey, shout out to Kelly Green in the building. Welcome to the party. In response to the question, says intelligent life barely exists here. Well, you're right about that. Welcome to the party, brother. Good to see you.
Necessary condition of movement.
I think it happens. I don't know how necessary it is, but most movements seem to go through these splintering. Feminism, who's the true feminism? This is why we have third wave feminism and apparently fourth wave feminism.
Right.
Because why? They don't agree about what's the right feminism. Even Ayn Rand's libertarianism or her objectivism went through this purging, where right down to what books you read, what movies you like to go to, what cigarette brands you smoke. I mean, really bad stuff. And if you're not ticking all the boxes, you're out. And it's like, this is insane. I've been observing this for so long. And, so I think there's just something about social groups within the groups, egos fighting for money, status. I don't know what, but they
don't think so. You don't, or do you think? Does disposition? So skepticism to me is not a set of tools that one uses to analyze. There's not merely. It's a disposition.
Right. Skepticism just is the position of not thinking dogmatically. Basically, is that whatever it is, I'm not going to accept anything unless I have the proper evidence, the proper reasoning. Or, as we like to say over here, believe nothing except that anything is possible.
It can be. That's part of it. Some people are naturally more skeptical, and some are more open to new ideas that are.
Because your work, one of the things that you've turned me on to in your work is that you can have the tools, but if you have the tools and don't have the attitude, you'll actually dig yourself deeper into delusion.
I think there's something in the notes about the audio going out for a moment, but it comes back.
It happened, right?
So the idea is that you want to have that. That's why
I think we're there. Yeah.
One of the most important things that I constantly talk about is belief revision. So the tools. Having the tools without the disposition is actually worse than not having the tools at all.
Having the tools, but not having the disposition is worse than not having the tools at all. I guess that means you have all the pieces to be the person that you want to be, and not doing it is worse than not having those pieces, because you can get those pieces and become that better person.
Because that's why people believe weird things. They dig themselves down.
So one thing we try to do is to teach what the cognitive biases are and watch out for them in you. But there's one more cognitive bias, that is the bias. That is, it's hard to see it in yourself. You can train people to recognize it, and they're good at that with a little training of the confirmation bias, the hindsight bias, and the my side bias, and so on in other people. So then you got to take it another step. Well, don't forget, our group might be subject to that. So you have to train that, and that's really hard.
Okay.
That's the piece that's missing from everybody who understands that these biases exist and will just go and project all over people because they forget about their own biases. Just as you can point out a bias in somebody else, you have to realize that you are capable of that same thing.
So my question to you is, if someone doesn't naturally have these dispositions, what's the best way to get them?
Well,
good question.
Your book, How to Have Difficult Conversations, I think has a lot of tools there. So it's not just the facts, but the way the facts are presented in a manner that doesn't threaten the identity of the person that you're trying to get them to change their beliefs. So the examples I give, if you're a Christian conservative and you think creationism is what they're supposed to believe, and you tell them, no, evolution is true, and by the way, you have to be an atheist to believe that, they're not going to ever accept anything you say about that, because
Good point.
that would mean giving up their deepest religious identity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to happen. So you have to just take that off the table. You can keep your religion, whatever. We're just talking about genetics or evolution or whatever.
Still kind of sounds exactly like what I've been saying for the last year.
And so the same thing would be with climate change. That got bundled with Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth film, and he was vice president of the Democratic administration, so he's a liberal. So climate change got bundled with liberalism. So automatically, when a conservative hears climate change, their brain autocorrects to, anti-capitalism, anti-American.
Right.
And it's funny because I talked to you guys about how the evolution of me not really having a relationship with my dad. And then over time, we, would have these conversations, and it would be tough because I was a default liberal, college or right out of college, thinking I knew everything. And he was a lifelong Republican, but also wasn't really in the weeds on things. And then I started paying attention. And I remember one of the first conversations we had was about him saying that climate change was one of the biggest hoaxes ever or something. And I was like, oh, Dad, you can't honestly believe that. No. And I mean, obviously now coming down a few years later, well, not a few years, a number of years later, it makes a lot of sense for somebody to say that. It's obviously a lot more complicated than that, but it's certainly not what Al Gore or Greta sold us.
Anti-jobs, it's like, okay.
Can we help? So I don't want to say put the dispositions in people. Can we help people nurture these dispositions in early education, from literature, film? I talked to Andrew Doyle a little bit about that.
Absolutely, you can. He's asking if we can help people learn to be on the track of thinking in this skeptical manner in an early way. And absolutely, all you have to do is the complete opposite of what public schools are doing today. You have to foster learning how to think, as opposed to learning that you should think this thing. You want to learn how to think and not what to think. And I also want to point out quickly that there is a big difference between skepticism and cynicism. I don't remember specifically if they get into that, but cynicism is taking the negative stance all the time, whereas skepticism is withholding until you have the right information. And Bailey says, classical education, the only way. What they're doing now is not classical education. Right now, what they're doing is straight up indoctrination. Completely agreed. When we go back to again, teaching children critical thinking. And like, I don't know, maybe some of you younger guys may not have even, and girls, may not have even had writing assignments when you were like in middle school, where they would just give you a picture prompt, and you had to write, 3 paragraphs on it and just like make up something. Now, I don't know if kids have those tools.
He's fantastic, by the way.
I know.
Yeah, I know your show with him was great. Can we use the existing educational infrastructure to help nudge people towards these dispositions?
I don't think so. What do you guys think?
I don't know, Pete. The way it's structured now, I think we need massive educational reform. The old model of the teacher standing up in front of the blackboard and the students in rows, it's effective for some things, but the roundtable, seminar, discussion, debate, open, your method, Socratic method, your street epistemology, just doing that in the classroom. I would like to see students offered the kind of thing I teach, Skepticism 101, how to think like a scientist, or Pinker's rationality, or logic, reasoning, whatever the tools are, at a much earlier age. We have this method, okay, so you got to take, geometry, and then pre-algebra and algebra, and then pre-calculus and calculus, and all that's fine if you're going into engineering or one of the STEM fields that uses those tools. But most people don't. 99% of the people who go through middle school and high school never use those tools.
But there's a lot in that those types of classes, those types of math classes that allow you to think in this logical way, because you can order we talk about premises and syllogisms and stuff, and all of that works on the same type of equation, and this equals that, and variables. It's all the same. It's just instead of using numbers, you're using concepts. Bayless says the only thing that anyone can think of to fix education is push more funding. In reality, they need all the tech funding pulled. Interesting. I don't know if it needs to be pulled. It just needs to be properly and adequately distributed. Because, I mean, there is an over-reliance, but I was saying something similar to this. And in an ever-increasing technological world where everything is on screens, we know how boomers are with their phones. But yeah, I mean, generally, I agree. Generally, we can't be using technology as a crutch. If anything, it should be there to bolster the skeptical, critical thinking that we're teaching in the first place.
How about, how statistics and probabilities explains most of what happens in the world? That's why I use Leonard Mlendow's book, The Drunkard's Walk, where he talks about, the regression to the mean, the law of large numbers, how most of what we see happening in the world is explained by statistics and probabilities, randomness. And people just do not grasp this at all because they've never heard it. And while I'm at it.
Yeah, I agree. Bailey says it all gets utilized for random emotional software. Technology should be taught in a class, but not integrated into every subject. That, yeah, I now that you say it like that, there's places where you want to use the cutting edge technology, and there's places where, the abacus is all that you want. So I'm going to amend my statement and agree with you.
How about a course in basic economics? How does the stock market work? What is money anyway? And how can I get more of it?
Yeah, I read a while ago. In fact, I think it was in the 90s. I read
Paulus' book, Mathematical Innumeracy. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, really.
For me, that was it. A game-changing book to help clarify my thinking. But so back to this idea that I'm going to ask you what pedagogies you think we should be experimenting with in schools. You gave us some ways or heuristics or even ways to think about that. Financial education, money. The Socratic method would be a pedagogy.
Bayesian reasoning, basic, just get off of black and white binary thinking that's right and wrong, true and false, and just think of everything as some degree of probability, more or less. Then you can get people away from the, it's either absolutely true or absolutely false. And since you think differently from me, you have to be wrong.
Right.
Yeah, certainty is dangerous. Certainty, or the perceived certainty, is dangerous. And the vitriol that people get is from entitlement, and it's because they believe that they're certain. Instead of having what degree of probability is that true, they assume that they're certain about what they know. But if we really want to boil down and get philosophical, you really don't know anything except for the fact that you exist. You don't even know that I exist. All you know for certain is that you exist.
Okay.
Not merely wrong, but an existential threat.
Yeah, that's right. Morally wrong. Evil, right?
Yeah, that's why we use the Likert scale when we do the street
Yeah,
epistemology.
you do that. Yeah. Yeah, it's good because people might be willing to move from here to here, but if you go, no, you got to go all the way over there. They're not going over there in one step.
Yeah, right. We talked about the substitution hypothesis. We talked about Bayesian reasoning.
So I skipped a little bit in the beginning. The substitution hypothesis just meaning that if you take away religion, that there is just like whoever it was on the last show we were talking to. I forget if it was DeSantis or Vivek, but if you remove religion, there's going to be something else that substitutes it. And I agree. So given that religion, and specifically Christianity, is being replaced, whether we like it or not, we can pretend that it's not and hope that, we can grab onto those who are sticking to Christianity, no matter how far away they may stray from what's actually in the Bible. Or we can do what I say and build a new American identity that fits everybody, regardless of if you're on the left, on the right, Christian, not Christian, any of those things. If you're American, then you are American.
And I have to talk to you about aliens.
Aliens, yes. Well, let's use Bayesian reasoning.
Well,
right?
okay.
Let's
Before you
go.
even use Bayesian reasoning,
Before we go down there, I had Schellenberger on. He talked about me. The reason we're talking about this is when Reed and I go around the world, I'm telling you this as a fact. And Reed can attest to this. Every single place we go, we let people choose any topics they want. There has not been a single time, not one time anywhere in the world we've gone where people have not wanted to talk about aliens.
That's great. Yes.
So now Bayesian reasoning.
Well,
It's
why
a
would
hot
you
topic.
not? Well, first of all, it is a hot topic because, first of all, it's in the news a lot with the UAPs and the government programs and whistleblowers and all that stuff. Okay, let's see what they got. But I think what you're experiencing there is something like back to the replacement hypothesis of a religious like impulse to think that there's somebody else out there that knows we're here and they have come here, right? I mean, most people that are enthused about UFOs and aliens have zero interest in the SETI program, which is a rigorous scientific program to
SETI is something I forget what does it actually stand for. But looking for intelligent life. SETI. Come on, just give me the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Yeah, that's what SETI is. And then they also were talking about Bayesian reasoning is the application of a probability theory to inductive reasoning. Basically, what I was saying before about instead of thinking about certainty, thinking about Zippy Strange. Welcome to the party. Good to see you, brother. Said an America for everyone, which is basically Puritanism without witch hunters, i.e., leave people the F alone. I don't know about Puritanism because my America could get pretty debaucherous. Just as long as you're leaving the children and the people who don't want to be part of the debauchery alone. So if that's Puritanism, then sure. But it can get nasty in my America.
Use radio telescopes to try to pick up signals from other civilizations, and they've had zero success so far. And they have a whole set of criteria. This is what's going to count as a signal. That's not a rotating black hole or whatever. It's sending out a sequence of, let's say, prime numbers like Sagan used in Contact. There's Jodie Foster with the cans on. All of a sudden, the prime numbers start coming through. Well, that can't be a rotating black hole or whatever. So that must be a sign of intelligence. No, the UFO community has zero interest in that. So
that's interesting. You would think that there would be a bigger overlap with people who are in the UFO community and the more traditional scientific endeavors going towards the same thing. But I never really thought about that. Shout out to Dietrich. Welcome to the party. Said before we can know about intelligent life, we must first have an intelligence level to base it off of. We don't have many examples of that. I mean, that's another good distinction to make in the question. But I think typically we use our own intelligence. And so, if we were to see something that was between the level of like an amoeba and a human, like higher than an amoeba, but not quite human, I think we would still call that intelligent life. I don't know, but I don't know exactly but some type of thought, some type of consciousness. But yeah, you definitely need that something. But taking the intelligence out of it, life is a very simple thing. And so it's almost positive that there is life elsewhere. It would be beyond unreason, it would be beyond a statistical anomaly for Earth to be the only place in the entire universe that has life. But you bring that intelligence in and it changes things a lot. Welcome to the party, Dietrichs. Bailey said Puritanism was not individualistic at all. It was entirely based on the religious community. The only individualistic ideas they held were about self-introspecting and accountability. That's what I was thinking. I was like, maybe I don't understand Puritanism specifically as well as I thought I did. But my America is not about Puritanism. It's just basically libertarianism. Just leave and goes to the same thing of leave people alone. But I mean, that's it. Lilto says, do you believe in dimensional stuff? Kind of like the scene in Interstellar when he went into the black hole. Time is dimensional too. And shrooms gave us intelligence, the stoned ape theory. So do I believe in dimensional stuff? So I do believe that, you bring up Interstellar, and that scene, spoilers if you haven't seen it, it's a space movie and it's about time. So there's going to be stuff there. But I don't think it would look like that, but I do believe that there has to be more than just the 3 dimensions that we can sense. We know that there's more stuff out there that we can't sense. If you just look at the light spectrum, you know that we can't see ultraviolet or infrared light. It's not that it's not there, we just can't see it. So there's absolutely stuff that in our presence that we can't see. What is it? How how well do we understand it? How much of it is? All of those things I have no idea. But do I believe in dimensional stuff? Yes. I do.
Yes.
Zippy says, leaving adults alone is nasty. That's why I remember the crazy preordained crap and witch hunters and not the leave the people alone side of Puritanism. But again, I mean, what Bailey said, I don't know what leave people alone you're talking about. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's that. I think at least when you talk about it today, Puritan or Puritanism usually refers to like the pearl clutching, religious, like, how dare you? I forgot I had the button. Come
How
on.
dare you?
Perfect opportunity. So I don't know, maybe just different understandings, but that's certainly not the word I would use. Daniel said, yes, use our intelligence. It's not a good standard, but it's a standard, damn it. I mean, what else do we got, right? So we said there was more than a couple sides of factions to Puritanism. Well, let's just use libertarianism and all say that we are on the same side with that one.
It tells us something. This is a different group of people. They're using a different epistemology, where anecdotes, stories, the credibility and credentials of the eyewitness, all of that matters. In the SETI scientific community, none of that matters. Just show us the evidence and we'll believe. Otherwise, we're skeptical. But to the UFO community, all that stuff matters.
Yes.
There you go. And so, yeah, Lilith was saying that dimension thing, it was silly, but I think silly is only a word I would agree with because of the lack of true knowledge that we do have about what is actually there. So I don't think it's silly that the events that happened, it's more about the way it was depicted, simply because we're so far away from actually knowing. And it's a similar thing to why I don't really like older sci-fi, but newer sci-fi that's focused on technology, really speaks to me, because before, and I wasn't a fan, so I don't know, don't slay me for not knowing the best sci-fi things ever. But a lot of it was more on the fantasy side, because we had to make up what the technology side would be. And as the future of technology became clearer, then sci-fi was able to make a more accurate depiction of what was to come, or at least a more realistic feeling. Specifically talking about, like a Black Mirror or Electric Dreams, stuff like that, as opposed to, Body Snatchers or something like that. So silly, yes, but only in its depiction, not in its concept. They said, yeah, that was Zuby said a lot of things get warped and lost over time. I mean, Wicca was considered strong bad a long time ago. I'm gonna tell you something right now. If you come across a girl and she says she's Wiccan, run. They said, yeah, okay. Except reverse, going 2D brain is what?
What? Sounds like religious reasoning.
I think it is a little bit like that, right? Who was it that saw the miracle? Oh, he's a sheriff. The mayor. Oh, in that case, what difference does it make what their job is? Right? And
false appeal to authority. Just because your mayor said they saw aliens doesn't mean that he knows anything more about that, just because he knows more about the government than you do.
Yeah. So in fact, I saw Mark Kelly, the pilot astronaut twin. I posted this on Twitter, his little video clip of him talking to a NASA meeting. And somebody asked about the credibility of the eyewitnesses of these pilots that saw these things. And he says, let me tell you about eyewitnesses. I'm a trained pilot and astronaut. we see stuff all the time that turns out to be nothing that we thought it was. And he gave the example of being in the space shuttle, with the cargo bay open because they were releasing something, and his fellow astronauts thought, oh my God, there's a tool or some kind of object in the bay that they were looking at, and it's like, oh my God, how big is it? Is it moving? We better do something about this thing. And
It's Bob Lazar.
he said turns out it was the space station, International Space Station, that was 80 miles away.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, and he says, I've known pilots that try to rendezvous with a fellow pilot, and it turns out it's a buoy on the ocean.
So you can't really use
Can't trust them.
Bayesian reasoning with that.
Well, hang on.
Hmm.
You can't trust the anecdotal storytelling credentials of eyewitnesses, because we're all susceptible to illusions, biases, and so on.
And that brings up an interesting point about anecdotes and when does an anecdote become evidence? And I think it has to do with the type of thing that you're trying to prove, because no amount of anecdotes of seeing different UFOs is ever going to be proof that UFOs exist. But, let's say we're going to look for, somebody who was abusing women or something. You got 70 women, Bill Cosby, coming forward, then I think it's reasonable to take that as evidence enough that you done something. 70, not 7. 7. Zippy said, older sci-fi was more grounded, though. Not so much in the tech, but in the base theories. Modern sci-fi is too much pew-pew. Hard sci-fi always tried to match up with the science of the time, though. Yeah, and I mean, I just guess I prefer the modern pew-pew version. I don't know. And that's why I'm not hating on older sci-fi. Just personally, as somebody who's not into the fantasy aspects of things, then what was, so I guess, if in 2000, if I'm going to be reading or watching sci-fi from the 70s, then the rate of technology, going up between the 70s and 2000 was so much that I wouldn't really see that as like the future that I'm living in. Does that make sense? And I don't know, maybe I just haven't seen the right ones, but that's what I've gotten from what I have seen. I still don't know what you're talking about, bro. Bailey said anecdotal evidence may become stronger if a vast amount of people are saying the same exact thing, depending on what it is, though, depending on the type of claim. Because again, 1 million people have said that they've seen UFOs and alien life of some sort, and maybe some of them have, maybe none of them have. Certainly not all of them have. And it doesn't matter how many people say, I saw a UFO. I have my own UFO story, but I don't believe that it's evidence for anything. It's just a anomaly that happened that doesn't make sense to me. And I skeptically don't come to a conclusion as to what it was. Just something happened. I don't know what it is. Wanted Bo said Star Wars is better than Star Trek. Never seen either one. Zippy said at least Interstellar tries to be hard sci-fi. So how do you define hard sci-fi versus soft sci-fi or modern sci-fi? Is that the distinction? What is the? I know you were saying the pew pew and stuff, but what would be an example of something a little bit more current that would not be hard sci-fi? Bailey said, if they all described it similarly, then it could be more influential. The issue is everyone has a different story. That's true. That's true. I'm trying to think though, because if described it similarly, yeah. I think if everybody, so yeah, let's say we have 1 million people saying they saw a UFO, but they all have slightly different. It's always a flying saucer, and there's lights and moving at a weird speed, but it's all different. But if everybody said, there was a triangular thing and it had 5 lights and it blinked and then it did this thing, and if it did the same thing every single time, all the people with UFO stories now, if they had that exact same story, you are correct. It would be better. It would be stronger evidence. I'm trying to find a way to nitpick, but I think once again, you've gotten me to agree with you. S tier movie, definitely.
The Bayesian reasoning part comes, I use this, again, people are black and white. So you're saying alien, 100% aliens have not come here. No. You're saying alien, there's no one else in the universe, we're alone? No.
Good one.
No.
Good one.
You know, that they're out there somewhere
right.
is a different question from are they
Yeah,
here?
right.
So people get confused about this. So if I say, okay, let's just shift it to this. You know,
Right.
All right.
You never,
So this is the question we should be asking.
this is called Cromwell's rule in Bayesian reasoning. Oliver Cromwell, methinks in the battles of Christ you might be mistaken. Just think you might be mistaken.
Okay. That I'm glad he gave that last little piece. So approach this or any other topic, assuming that you might be mistaken. Assume that you might be mistaken.
So are there aliens out there? I don't know. You don't know. No one knows for sure. They might be. Let's just assign a low probability, and if new evidence comes in, we'll raise our estimates of the probability of that being true. Have they come here? I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. Show me your evidence, and I'll believe it. I'll give it a 1% or a 10%. And so, like recently, somebody said, "Oh, Shermer, you gave this Grush, David Grush, a hard time."
Exactly.
And then now you've changed your tune on Twitter. It's like I changed my tune because I talked to Michael Schellenberger.
I was just going to talk to you about that.
And he told me he talked to eyewitnesses to confirm what Grush said about his eyewitnesses. So then I go, okay.
What did he say?
The Bayesian the probability.
So you have your
calculus.
priors.
Right.
The priors are, this is what I believe at the moment when I start believing this thing. And then you update your priors based on new information that comes in. It's like, oh, okay, well then maybe that's true. You know, we have two, and then Marco Rubio comes. Well, I've talked to people too. Oh, okay, there's a third one. Now it's still not evidence. I can't say I know for sure that aliens have visited here, but it means that the eyewitnesses that the one guy said, which was, okay, maybe not, and then two guys like, okay, and three guys, it's like if you hear this at the door, you think, oh, what was that? If you hear, you think, I wonder if somebody's at the door. Somebody's at the door, right? 3 data points tips us into very probable.
Interesting. So he's saying that, based on, what knowledge he had, at a previous point, it was as if he was hearing the one knock. Like, is that somebody at the door, or did I just hear something? Then if you hear the second knock, you're like, okay, that sounded like, and by the third data point, the probability in your mind that there is somebody at the door goes up. And that's the same thing with these anecdotes and the strength of each anecdote. Zippy said, Star Wars is fantasy. Blade Runner is hard sci-fi, as the basic concepts are not that fantastical. Interstellar, that tries to be closer to science, is hard sci-fi. Okay, so I think I got you. Again, it's still just not really my wheelhouse. There's definitely some big names, some big titles that come out that really tickle my fancy. But this is a good question. Is idiocracy hard sci-fi? Probably. It's like a documentary from the future. It's crazy how much from that movie has come true. It's insane. Zuby says, older Star Trek tries to be hard sci-fi. The films, The New Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Fair enough.
Again, you don't have to assign 100% or 0%, just something in between. Then people don't have to get so emotionally charged. Like you're saying 100%. No, I'm not saying 100%. Could be in between.
Okay, so one of the things, I love that question that you asked Schellenberger. It's not, hey, has Reed seen the aliens over there? No, it's like, have you seen the craft? Have you talked to anybody who's actually seen the craft, as opposed to, yeah, there's a secret program over there and people have told me they've seen the craft.
Bob Lazar.
So when Schellenberger said yes, I was like, holy moly. Like, that's another level. Now, my next question is, how do you actually know that they're craft?
Well, okay, so then that's a separate question. So first we have to establish, can you trust Michael Schellenberger, Marco Rubio?
I think the answer to Schellenberger is yes.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so I trust what he says. Now, what does he say? He says he talked to people who said, okay, who are these people? I don't know, because he won't say.
He's protecting his sources.
All right, okay, so that, it's like, all right, I understand about privacy and classified.
But Grush has top secret security clearance.
Sus.
All the
I don't know
people.
how top it is, but he has some security clearance. Yeah.
Okay.
And the people Schellenberger talked to also apparently, and same thing with Rubio. Okay, so, but what is it that they? Okay, let's assume that those three people accurately reported what they were told. Okay, what were they told? Who are these people? We don't know. What did they see? Well, they said we saw something. We saw a craft. Okay,
Saw something. Okay.
Well, we make craft. You know, if you were in the 1950s and you saw the SR-71 Blackbird flying by, you knew nothing about it, or the stealth bomber, you know, it's like, wow, I just saw this incredible craft.
So that brings up, I always forget law of what, but Clark's third law. I think it's thermodynamic. I don't know. Clark's third law. Why don't we Google it? But any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Clark's third law. His famous three laws, of which the third law is best known. Yeah, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so if you see something that you're just like, well, I don't know how that possibly could be. There's nothing that I can think of that could possibly be anything else except magic or divinity or supernatural. Any sufficiently advanced technology you will not be able to tell the difference between it being technology that you're not aware of versus being actual magic. The idea being that if you are a skeptic, if you can't explain something, the more likely answer is not that it's magic. It's not that it's divinity. It's not that it's any of those things, but that it's some type of technology that you don't understand. Not always, but that's the skeptical position. So he said, if you think about it more deeply, the androids, still talking about Blade Runner, are just a new species of human with human-like problems. And that's probably going to come true, right?
Yeah, we made that. You know, it could be something like that. It could be, you know, a back engineering. It could be a crashed Soviet satellite, and we are back engineering their technology to see what they're doing, because we do this. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And how do you know? Shout out to Ron Southall. Welcome to the party. Said, do you think, Jay? Definitely will. Welcome. Glad to have you. Zippy said, Thor in the MCU, technology is like magic. Yep, they have that little line. Y'all people call it science. But that's a great way to keep the MCU grounded, even though you have pew-pews all over the place.
So the leap to me, and the thing with Bayesianism is it's always hard to figure out those priors because you don't want biases to affect those. But it seems to me, I know, obviously I have no security clearance, but I would be flabbergasted if the United States did not have some secret programs with some hangars in some bases.
Yes.
We must have that.
And so this is why I asked about Bob Lazar. So since we have 50-50, I should have just asked if you knew who it was. But I found about him from him going on Rogan, and he claims that he worked on trying to do exactly what Shermer just said, that they found alien crafts and they were trying to reverse engineer it, and it was some type of propulsion and gravity, and it was not human and all this stuff. A lot of people say he's full of ish. A lot of people say, this is the real deal. I don't know but that's who they're talking about. And what Peter's talking about, saying there was, there has to be hangars and bases somewhere. Bob Lazar says, indeed there are, and I used to work for them. Why you're allowed to talk about it on Joe Rogan is a little sus, but that's another conversation. Daniel says fire was once magical. Exactly, because we didn't understand it. It was magic. I believe. Oh, I'm forgetting the word. It's not flotsam, because that's something that's in the ocean. So I'm just going to use that instead. But there was a word. There was a thing that they thought existed. Oh, man, this is killing me. It's not flotsam, but it's some flagellum, something like that. They thought there was an element that was called this thing, and that when something was on fire, what was happening is that element was being added to whatever was going on. And obviously, that's not the case. Before that, it was just magic.
We do have that.
Okay, so
But
that's
for what reason?
well, that's the question.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
the leap to me seems to go from I've seen this and it's alien. Like that's the
that's
largest leap
Yes.
in that whole
Yes. This whole
probability
business
calculus.
of, we have off-world technology. How do you know? How do you know it's off-world? I mean,
Phlogiston! Phlogiston! That's what it's called. Phlogiston. Phlogiston, an early chemical theory, hypothetical principle of fire, of which every combustible substance was was in part composed. So phlogiston was part of everything. And then when, in this view, the phenomena of burning, now called oxidation, was caused by the liberation of phlogiston with the whatever. So this is what they used to think that fire was. They just didn't know any better. They just come on, bro. Oh, okay. I thought you were saying fluorescence was trying to be I forget even the word phlogiston. And you're just saying, oh, bad spelling. But no. Yeah. So there was specifically this word, specifically this element that they thought was part of fire. And so it really goes to show that number one, you can't trust, like, you're not supposed to trust the science. You're supposed to question the science. And really, you're supposed to do the science because science is a process. But it also shows that it's a self-correcting process, that when we get things wrong on a long enough timeline, we will get it right.
was there some tests done on the materials? Yes, there was these tests with the ratios and the isotopes. Yeah, but I saw nothing that was said there that would preclude it being some CIA experiment or DARPA. DARPA does the craziest research,
Right.
the stuff we know about.
The Dharma.
99% of it is just completely batshit crazy, including a bat bomb, where they have this idea of capturing bats and then strapping a little bomb to the back and then releasing them. This was, I think, during the Korean War. Might have been Vietnam anyway. It's like, what are you talking about? The bomb weighs more than the bat.
Yeah.
So they just spitball ideas like,
well, why not a bumblebee bomb then? Bumblebees can fly, and they're too heavy to fly.
crazy.
Yeah.
And then they start building stuff to see what works. So who knows? Somebody saw something like that and went, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. That's off world.
Okay, so what I wanted to do this before this interview, but I couldn't do this, so I couldn't ask someone. Ilya Shapiro is a buddy of mine. I was going to ask him. He's a constitutional lawyer. So I started Googling this. So you can, I'm not a lawyer. You can take this for whatever it's worth. Let's say that we really wanted to figure out if this were true.
And we do.
From my understanding, the way that we could do this literally overnight is the Senate Intelligence Committee could fly down to Roswell and get a hotel, and they have, my understanding, and again, I'm not a lawyer, is they have access to everything. There's not, I
don't think that's true. I don't think
well, somebody has clearance.
Marco Rubio could fly to Area 51 and say, take me in the back, I want to see everything.
Maybe not Marco Rubio, but there's somebody who works there. There's somebody who has that level of clearance. There's somebody.
I don't think they'd let him. I mean, you have to have security, really, really special security clearance to get into Area 51. And I think most senators, I don't know for sure, but I doubt it. Right.
That's wild. The chicken bomb.
Right. So that would be the ultimate test. But okay, so here's the problem. What if Marco Rubio gets into Area 51, whatever, and comes back and says, well, I didn't see anything. Well, you know what the ufologists are going to say? Well, of course
they didn't show it to you.
Yep. Well, the whole idea is okay. So then it's another Bayesian calculus. Like how likely is that? So he doesn't tell anybody he's going down. He and whoever else goes there first thing in the morning. He demands a complete lockdown. I mean, you could think through ways where we could do this. Complete lockdown of the facility. Everybody is to sit on their bottom and put their hands on their head. If anybody caught will be, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the American government wouldn't do that. But there's people. This is the same thing. The government does not create nukes. So there are people who are allowed to have nukes. There are people who have the clearance to be able to see whatever they're hiding. How do we get past that?
He could have the authority. They'll be charged with a felony or whatever. I don't know what a military tribunal. I don't know what it would be, but it would seem that there would be ways of figuring this out within the pre-existing legal infrastructure.
if they found positive evidence and Rubio came out and said, all right, I've blown the whistle off the whole thing. We've had this program since the 1950s. Here's what we found. And then everybody go, finally, disclosure. But what if he came out and said, nah, to be honest, it was just experimental aircraft that DARPA was working on. There's no aliens.
Do you think anybody in the UFO community would believe him? Nobody. He'd be like, well, of course, you're part of the cover-up.
Do you think the UFO community would be satisfied with that?
No.
They would say he was lied to, or he's lying. It's part of the cover-up.
Yeah, they're going to kill him unless he says otherwise.
Yeah.
Right.
During the big invasion of Iraq, when W said, they have weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
We're going in there, and the UN inspectors went in there, and 6 months later they come out and they go, you know what? He doesn't have any weapons of mass destruction. Bush's the administration's initial response was, that's because they moved them.
Right.
That's how we know they have them, because we couldn't find any.
Right.
Yeah, that line of logic does not work. So Lil Toe says they have demon aliens for sure in Area 51. We're in the Bayesian probability logical system now. I thought we weren't doing certainty. I thought we weren't doing black and white. I thought we weren't doing absolutes. I thought, having never seen Star Wars, I was pretty sure, come on, where the hell is it? That somebody had told me, I can't find the thing, but Zippy said only Siths deal in absolutes. Are you a Sith, sir? How do you know that for sure? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking how you know. Daniel says, theoretically, a civilian can own nukes too. I hear there's a form. Always good to know a gunsmith. Yeah, I mean that's exactly the point. There is a process. You're probably not going to get a nuke, but there is a process. And Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, they went through the process, and they have nukes.
So the lack of evidence means it's true.
Right.
What? It's like that credo absurdum. The fact that there's no evidence for God means that there really is a God. Like,
that's y'all.
Wait, what? Right. So the only way we could really get at it is with.
Oh, okay. Shout out to Unwanted Foe. Apologies. Yeah, that was a good one. Lil Toe says maybe he is
in the positive way. You can't prove a negative. It's just, and you're just hand waving with conspiracy theories about the cover up and so on. That's not going to get us anywhere. So then we have to shift back to the Bayesian probability with the principle of proportionality, as David Hume first articulated it, or the ECRE principle. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, ECRE. And there, you correctly identified the leap from interesting secret technology for spying on the Russians or whatever to aliens is huge. That's a huge leap. I mean, everybody agrees on all sides the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence would be one of the top discoveries of all time.
Since fire is what I tweeted.
Yeah, I put it up there with the resurrection of Jesus. It's
Shout out to, all right, let me get it right this time. Shout out to Daniel. Calling it before it comes. Guys, this is showing you that you're understanding. You're understanding that you are one of the people that we all need to be talking about this stuff. Because most people just don't think like this. And I'm not blowing smoke up your guys' asses. People are really just that dumb. And so it's on us who, we don't have to be geniuses. We just have to be smart enough to know that we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know and we don't know that we don't know what we don't know. If you can understand that, then you have a responsibility to humankind, much less America, to rise the bottom line. At least have a conversation with somebody. Because they might not know. And you could be that person. Because remember, they all have votes. They all have neighbors. And we don't want people who are just dumb and zombie walking through life interacting with us. Because they are dangerous people. Or theoretically dangerous people.
There's billions to one. Yeah, okay. But okay, it's not zero.
Right.
All right.
It's not zero.
So but we have to have some commensurate evidence to take us up to that level. I'll go with you to the secret spy balloons.
We have to have some evidence to take us up to a maybe.
Yes,
right. The default is not maybe.
Right.
The default is extraordinarily unlikely.
Right. That's right.
right. So on probability, I don't know is not a probability. So yeah. The default is extraordinarily unlikely, and from that point, then you can move up closer to certain, but you never get to certainty.
Perfectly said. Yeah, that's right.
Wouldn't the question in that instance be a defeasibility or a disconfirmation question to people who espouse these beliefs? Under what conditions?
Well, here I would employ your strategy of asking, what would it take to change your mind?
Yeah, what would it take to change your mind? Under what conditions?
Yeah.
And then you would see, so if it doesn't have to be Marco Rubio, ideally it would be, Schellenberger said, I think he said this on your podcast and he told me this, this is the most bipartisan thing he's come across. Basically, everybody wants to know what's true. There's nobody who's,
right.
There's no right wing. There's no, we don't want anybody to know. Everybody wants to know about this. Okay.
You want to know about aliens? What a liberal. Wait, no. You want to know about aliens? What are you, right wing? Yeah, it doesn't work.
So in an ideal world, it would be someone on the left and someone on the right, and someone, as you said, someone with no wings, not right wing, not left wing, and they all go in there together. And if that's not enough, and the very idea that someone could say, well, they move them and then they have to do mental gymnastics. Well, they have faster than light travel. How do you think they got here?
Okay, you're making claims, but now we have two claims and you have not presented any evidence.
FTL out, whatever it is. So in those cases, you're correct. Excuse me. I don't think anybody's mind is going to change, but I think it would shift the Overton window in terms of how people view the credibility of what they're seeing. Like, I think someone with no dog in the fight would then look and say, oh, come on. Now, like, I listened to, and I thought it was really, really good on your podcast that you gave it to Avi.
Is he saying that because it's, more, maybe not specifically the government, but establishment entities that would be doing this type of work? Is that what he's talking about? Where if there was more trust in the institutions, then we might be able to, move this along more easily, maybe? So he says, make all government secrets and data public. I'm down with that. I am down with that. Ask, and you should actually, if I could, I definitely would turn it to 0.25 and play it backwards and listen to them. If I could, I definitely would do that right now. So if somebody wants to download the video, then in the after panel in Discord, if one of the mods could drop the link, please, we can definitely go through that and see, is there evidence? I'm down.
Loeb about Oumuamua. Like, he was
Oumuamua. What is Oumuamua? Oh, I can't see it now. UMOLOMA. I forgot already how to spell it. Shit. Okay, I gotta put it in the chat because I'm an idiot. UMULOMO. All right. What? I definitely UMULOMAO. OLMOA. Come on, bro. What are we talking about? All right. Let's see if I miss it.
In the fight would then look and say, oh, come on. Now, like, I listened to, and I thought it was really, really good on your podcast that you gave it to Avi Loeb about Oumuamua. Like, he was making claims beyond the warrant of the evidence.
Oh, I think Oumuamua is not somebody's name. But even if it was, no Google results? Hold on. That's sus. AF. Let's see. Do I have you guys? Okay, let's see. Not many results. Yeah, dude. What is this guy talking about? I have no idea. Does anybody know what that word is in reference to? And true, sometimes the text to speech is bad, but you'd think that it would give me something like, oh, did you mean this? And I mean, it did. Let's click on one of them. Let's see. Oh, okay. So let's listen to it, and then come on. Why is this doing this? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
Avi Loeb about Oumuamua. Like he was making claims beyond the warrant of the evidence. Gave it to Avi Loeb
All right. All right. We're getting this.
about Oumuamua.
A mola. That's what I mean. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out.
I thought it was really, really good on your podcast that you gave it to Avi Loeb about Oumuamua. Like he was making claims beyond the warrant of the evidence. And I'm no expert in this UFOlogy, and I'm certainly not a Harvard physicist. But he was making claims beyond the warrant of the evidence.
He was, and I know because before.
Kind of like Lil Toast, just messing with you. But no, yeah, this is a common thing. This isn't something that I'm pulling out my ass when we talk about claims and evidence. This is a standard way to grapple with language in a logical manner.
I recorded that with Avi. I talked to some astrophysicists who told me, who knew all about Oumuamua. They read the papers, they know Avi, and so on. Oh, he's very respectable scientist, yes, but he's going beyond the warrant of the evidence, and most of us don't believe it.
Yeah, I talked to Brian Keating about that too.
Oh yeah, Brian, he's good.
Brian's fantastic.
Yeah, he's good.
He's just like, what's the evidence?
I think likeliest what's going to happen is if there's secrets being kept, it's not because they're covering up aliens. It's that they're probably doing stuff that they've always done, spying on the Russians and the Chinese, developing spy technology, stealth aircraft, whatever.
Okay.
And we're not going to tell the public about this because we don't want the enemy to know.
Okay, but that's the thing that I don't understand. Like that's like if you legit, I mean.
There we go. Shout out to Zippy the Strange. It is, I still don't know how to say it. October 2017, astronomers in Hawaii spotted an object they called which means a messenger from afar arriving first. According to NASA, the reddish object was shaped like a cigar or pancake. Those are very different shapes, so whatever. But let's see some imagers here. What is this? That is wild. This was just floating through space. Crazy. It was neither a comet nor asteroid. So what was it? Interesting. So definitely something to check out. But thank you. So at least we know what the hell they're talking about. So and they were saying that he was making claims that beyond the what the evidence warranted. So I guess he was trying to make a claim about this asteroid and what it meant, but it just wasn't, the conclusion didn't follow what he was saying, despite the fact that the asteroid is real. Thank you, Zippy.
Okay, we both agree. This is just. There is no adjective to describe how monumental this would be. I mean, this would be literally sense-fire. This would be so epic, doesn't even begin to explain how huge this would be.
Meaning if it brought life.
Why wouldn't you get...
Or if it was, like a ship that it's sent.
The whole Caltech, MIT, why wouldn't you just make a Manhattan Project? I mean, none of this makes any sense. There's like, we want to keep it. No, that's insane. Like, it doesn't even on the face of it make any sense.
Okay, so Lil Toes, if Shermer says something sus here, talking about Bayesian reasoning, I will move more closely to certainty on probability if he tries to cover that up, because you cannot, well, at least I cannot see how what Peter Boghossian just said is not logical. That can't be it. So you might be right. Let's see.
It's a little bit like the JFK assassination documents that they've slowly released some of Freedom of Information Act. Finally, now we have most of them. And most of the revelations about it have nothing to do with the CIA or the FBI or Johnson being involved in the assassination. it was, secret Cold War covert activities of spying on other foreign leaders, other countries, rigging elections, working with people to assassinate foreign leaders, overturn regimes we don't like. I mean, we were doing all that. I mean, the
Right.
CIA was
Right.
involved in, third world countries where there were, kind of a failed state. So
Moving kind of further away from lizard talk. Just saying. I don't know. What do you think? Does that move you any further away from certainty that he is a lizard? Covering it up. Zippy said, I'm bad with phonetics, so I spell things as they sound. Sometimes I'm right, like twice a day. Broken clock, baby. Love you for it.
you have the communist dictator and the fascist dictator and American business interests in those countries. Well, the fascist dictator is going to be friendlier to American business interests in the communists.
Shout out to Opus. Welcome to the party, brother.
Take it. So we're going to support the fascist guy. Now, we don't like fascism, but he's a son of a bitch, but he's our son of a bitch, right? Yeah. So that was going on. We know that now.
Yeah.
Our Project MK Ultra, secret mind control experiments. We didn't find out till much later.
We found one! Get him, guys! Get him! No, I'm just kidding. Welcome, Mr. Alien.
COINTELPRO, FBI spying on Martin Luther King Jr.
Hence your book, Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And actually, now that you just jumped in, you kind of just missed a big question that they were talking about this thingy, some kind of asteroid / comet / something that was discovered 2017, I think they said, in Hawaii. And they're not sure if it is a spaceship or if it's a comet or what it is. And then they're talking about some guy who was saying that something about this proves that there's aliens or something along those lines. So he didn't give us specific, but that's kind of where they are.
Yeah.
So we know about that. So if there's more that we don't know about,
oh, you already know is good. All right, cool.
Probably in that big bin of this is what secret intelligence agencies do.
Yeah.
Not the little bin over here. It's aliens.
Okay, so two things. One, I am amazed at how many legitimately smart people have fallen for this. Like people I know, people I'm amazed by that.
I say that about religion maybe 3 times a week.
But I want to show you, Reed, let's pull up a clip from Michael. Was this where is this, Australia? Okay, this is at Speaker's Corner in London. Okay, so just take a look at this video.
You guys keep saying stuff like this. What do you mean? How is it like, is something not working? I could, hit up YouTube and see if there's something going wrong.
Oh, okay, here we go. Is this you guys? Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go.
It's a little silly, but let's take a look at it because these are ordinary people. There are no actors, just random people who participated.
So if you're not familiar, this is usually what we cover, the street epistemology, again, where Peter Boghossian, the gray-haired gentleman, Dr. Boghossian, will put up a prompt similar to the Jubilee videos, but instead of agree or disagree, he has different lines taped on the ground, and there's the neutral line where you start, and then he says go. You either go to slightly agree or disagree, or on the ends is strongly agree or disagree, and they're about to show a clip from that. So again, the lines are there. The claim is aliens are visiting Earth. So this woman, I guess, went to agree. This dude went to slightly disagree. And this dude went to strongly disagree.
Wow. Okay. Tell him why you agree that aliens are visiting Earth. Nice and loud so he can hear.
Because whenever there's nuclear activity, the aliens get in there and they stop it because they know that we're stupid. We are like fish in an aquarium. They put us here and they're watching us and we're just too stupid. That's why they don't show themselves to us.
Well, maybe you're too stupid. Maybe I'm too stupid. Put one in the chat if you agree with her.
Like the fish have nothing to do with us. They know that they're there.
Yeah.
And like we know we're here. But
yeah, look at him. Oh my God. He's turning red.
Aliens are just on another level. But they watch over us.
Thank you.
How could you possibly know that?
Tell her why you strongly disagree with that.
Oh.
You told me something that you could have made up There is no evidence for that.
There's no evidence against it. There's more evidence for it
Right,
because
There's no evidence. Wow. Just because there's no evidence disproving a negative, it means nothing. This goes back to Russell's teapot. Maybe you've heard of it before. Bertrand Russell was one of the earliest public, like public atheists, as that was his thing. And he came up with this thought experiment about people, because people always say, well, you can't prove that God doesn't exist. Your science doesn't answer this question, so it must be God. So taking the God of the gaps, where, oh, I don't know, therefore God, then he came up with this thought experiment. He said, there's a silver-plated teapot circling the sun, and it's right between Saturn and Jupiter. Prove it's not there. Oh, you can't? So then you can't use that argument for anything else at all. Obi said she has a tinfoil hat under her ball cap. Zippy said, we are the fish. Facts, we are indeed the fish. And Opus said, so aliens let us test dozens of nukes and blow up 2 huge cities in Japan, but what now?
What?
Logic, right?
because the Earth is tens of millions of years old.
Oh,
And how can we be the only form of life
there you go.
in this
See?
whole of the universe of anything? If you have a look in the
She's
sky,
confusing the two
there
questions.
are more stars than sand grains on the beaches of the whole Earth.
That is not a claim. That is a question.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's such a good example of, confusing. Are they out there somewhere? Have they come
Exactly what you
questions?
just said, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously you guys see the reason he showed that is because it's exactly what I was talking about with the teapot, and how people don't understand how the burden of proof exists on the person who makes the claim that you can't disprove a negative. People just don't know these things, and they're out there operating the world at large, not knowing that you can't prove a negative, or you can't disprove a negative. Lito says, can you imagine being at Nagasaki then? No, I can't. I'm glad I cannot. But that must have been insane. At least, if we go to nuclear war, drop it right here. I don't want to be I want to be in the blast zone. I want to be vaporized out of existence. I don't want to, have to live with one arm and cancer slowly eating away at me for the next 30 years. No. If we go on nuclear war, take me out. That's my line. I'm out. I don't need nuclear war. I can try to help if we're trying to fix political conversations. That I can help with. Nuclear war. The ants gonna fight other ant colonies. Also, not nuking them would have had far worse land war and much more resentment. Yeah, I don't know that anybody was saying that we shouldn't have done it. Certainly, I mean, it's a deep conversation, but Opus was specifically addressing the woman's argument that the aliens are preventing us from using nukes, except that we use nukes. Opus said this talk was more about deductive reasoning than aliens. Correct, sir. Aliens are like a religion. I doubt. As you should. That is skepticism, sir. That is skepticism.
And also the nuclear thing, that's interesting because they're just talking about this nuclear site back in the 70s where there was some weird, funky lights in the sky, and there was some electrical problems in the technology system of the launching of the rockets and so on. But this is the only time this has happened, or one of the few times. There's a few other sites where there's some weird lights. And so they immediately lead to the aliens are upset about us having nuclear weapons. Like it's a clip from the Day the Earth Stood Still, the 1951 film about the aliens coming to warn us about nuclear weapons, right?
It's
but
literally
they're neglecting the base rate. How often does this happen? How many nuclear bases are there? Well, a lot. We have land-based missiles, we have submarine-based missiles, we have bomber-based missiles. That's the nuclear triad. How come the aliens aren't buzzing around the submarines?
Well, it's a good thing all our missiles are based and not soy.
And so on, because that would be just as bad.
Actually, all right, I'm gonna try something because Morty, I had to block off the thing here because Morty will go upstairs and ruin things. And I obviously his chair's not here because he wasn't sitting in it anymore. Let's try one more thing. Hang on just a second. I'm gonna make Morty's dreams come true. Get out of there. Look, here, look. Come on, come lay down back here. So you could be cute, you could be in the frame. There you go. Who wants to bet he doesn't even use it? He's not even going to use it. He's not even going to use it.
And how many other sites have had lights around them that are not nuclear? So you have to look at the counterfactuals. What compared to what? What does that mean? I have one anecdote. This is a problem with anecdotal thinking. Compared to what? How unusual is that?
Okay, so I just want to be crystal clear about one thing, because when I was very involved in the skeptical movement, I remember people would say to me, "You just don't want it to be true." So let me be totally clear with you right now. I genuinely hope, like I really, truly hope we have the wreckage of down crap, like from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, me too.
That's where I was going. So
the what? Hey, shout out to Unwanted Foe! Big shout out. Yeah, you know what those sounds mean, don't you, little a-hole? All right, I don't know if we could do this on camera. Let's see. All right, let me pull this down. Guys, every single super chat or donation comes with a treat for Morty. So give me a high five. We got that. There you go. There you go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
you hope it too.
Of course,
So
yeah.
it's like it's not that you don't want it to be true. It's that you think that the priors, the reasoning, the evidence.
Yeah, actually, let me back this up a second. I don't remember.
Want it to be true. So let me be totally clear with you right now. I genuinely hope, like I really, truly hope we have the wreckage of down crap, like from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, me too.
That's where I was
Yeah,
going. So
yeah.
you hope it too.
Of course.
So
yeah.
it's like it's not that you don't want it to be true. It's that you think that the priors, the reasoning, the evidence isn't sufficient. So now here's the question that I have for you. Just as for the UFO people, under what conditions would you be willing to change your mind? I have for Michael Shermer. Under what conditions would you be willing to change? What would you have to see to make you say, holy shit, like I was wrong, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, we have downed alien craft, we have been visited from people by, quote unquote aliens since whenever, Roswell, whatever. What would it take for you to change your mind?
So before he answers, I'm not of the position that, it hasn't happened, but just that we don't have any evidence. So it would just take some type of evidence that would be impossible that it was human. So it's very likely that we could get actual video of an actual craft that is not of this world. But I still wouldn't necessarily think that it's not of this world, because that would entail assumptions. If we don't know what it is, we can't assume what it is. We don't know what it is. So it would have to be some type of contact, I think.
Somebody asked that on Twitter the other day. Oh, it was Brian Keating.
Yeah.
Actually, what would you put on the cover of Skeptic if it turned out, this was, I would put, we were wrong.
Yeah.
Because, all right, what would it take? Well, all right. So,
I was wrong would be even better, right? Michael Shermer was
well,
wrong. I
yeah,
was
but it's
wrong.
There
not
you
just
go.
me. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a whole community of skeptics. So actually, most scientists are skeptics because most ideas in science are wrong also. So
That's why you don't trust the science. You question the science and do the science.
what would it take? Okay, the Chinese spy balloon is a nice model. When that story first broke, it's like, what? Are you sure they're seeing what they think they're seeing? This thing was way far away,
Yeah.
and the pictures
Nope.
weren't very good.
Nope. So Zippy says, of all the possibilities in the universe, why not? But you can't trust anything people say. You have to doubt it. Indeed, sir.
And then in the coming days, it's like the thing it went over Canada and through the northern part of the United States, and everybody and their brothers out there with their cameras. And then it was slightly better photographs. It's like, yeah, okay, this definitely doesn't look like an illusion or anything. And then we sent up one of our fighters, and there's a crystal clear, high resolution photograph with the equipment hanging from the. It's like, okay, that's definitely
something.
Identified aerial phenomenon, not unidentified. No question about 100%. You know, the Pentagon, the president, everybody, Secretary of State. Yes, this thing is there, and we're going to shoot it down. And we're pissed off at the Chinese. The Chinese are going, "Hey, it's not ours," or "Oops, it's ours," and it accidentally went off course for the fourth time. You know, it's like, yeah, okay. So, and it's in all the newspapers. It's covered on the daily news. No one asks, what's the credentials of the pilot who took that picture? You know, is he decorated? How's his eyesight? How trustworthy is that? No one cares about that, because
I mean, he's got to have decent eyesight if he's a pilot, right? But good point.
there's the picture. We can all see it. So if that happened, everybody would believe, including skeptics. Absolutely.
Sure. So what is the that?
No. He made a big, or not a big, but a slight blunder. Who caught it? I'm gonna play it one more time and not say anything, and I'm hoping that one of you guys are gonna catch it. Listen carefully to listen carefully to what he says and what words he used, and it's gonna be a word that you hear me have issues with all the time. What did he mess up? And this is super nitpicky, but I want to see if you guys catch it.
There's the picture. We can all see it. So if that happened, everybody would believe, including skeptics. Absolutely.
Sure.
Did anybody catch it? Give you guys a second. I know there's a little bit of a delay. Let me just fix my drink here. There's a specific word that he used, and I understand what he's saying, so I'm not going to be an a-hole and pretend that I don't know what he's saying. But if we're going to get down to technicality, take a nice little sip. All right, and Bailey got it. Rather than believe, we would recognize the evidence and know. We would know. Now, if we're talking on this Bayesian thing, then we would never have certainty, but we would have enough of a probability that we would say we know it in the same way that you know your best friend's name is John. For all you know, they told you that one day, and their name's actually Jim, and you got it wrong, and they just never corrected you. But with a decent amount of probability, you can say that you know your friend's name. And so we would know. And he said we would believe. Yeah, not absolutely, believe. Exactly. Listen to it one more time.
How trustworthy is that? No one cares about that, because there's the picture. We can all see it. So if that happened, everybody would believe.
If that happened, everybody would know. We wouldn't need to believe. We wouldn't need faith because we would have knowledge.
Including skeptics. Absolutely.
Sure. So what is the that in that sense?
Okay, so here's...
Yeah, he never answered the question.
Bet, my $1,000 bet that no one will take me up on is that, by January 1st, 2024, the President of the United States, Pentagon, Secretary of State, other world leaders will all announce we have made contact with ETs, and here's the evidence. Here's the photos. Here's the debris. Here's the hangar where we keep it.
Okay, so
and then that would...
When did he say? January 1st, 2024? That's crazy.
So debris would do it for you.
Physical evidence.
Physical evidence. So not what are the Tic Tac video?
I personally have never seen the Chinese spy balloon with my own eyes, but I trust that 1,000 news stories with videos and pictures are trustworthy and is not a conspiracy cover-up. Like the moon landing.
So I just want to be clear.
He said like the moon landing. Could you pick a worse example for something to be a believed narrative? The moon landing, that is the most questioned, maybe that and JFK. Those are the most questioned conspiracy theories of all time. What are you talking about, bro? Opus said there's several options as I see it. One, aliens haven't visited because if they had, it would have taken a massive generational ship to get to us that would be easily visible. Or to be continued.
What it would take for you to change your mind that the United States has been in contact. This is such an insane conversation.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry. We gotta do it.
It is, but it's everybody loves it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so two possibilities. One, aliens haven't visited because if they had, it would have taken a massive generational ship that, to get to us that would be easily visible. So the trip is too far. It would take too long. Two, they have visited, and they are so advanced that we would understand them about as well as ants understand people. Or obviously, three, they haven't visited. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Oh, I hope I can get this before he. This dog. I'm going to. I mean, I love this dog. I really, really, really love this dog. But I mean, come on. It's just constant that he is doing stuff completely opposite to what I want him to do. Oh, I gotta hold on. I'll do that. The chair. He's sitting in the chair. Come on, bro. This guy. All right. Anyway, so one, they're here. They haven't visited us because they don't want to be found out. Two, they have, and we just don't know, and we're the ants to we're like ants to them being people. Or three, they haven't visited. Sounds pretty reasonable to me. And I would think that, number one is probably the most realistic, because the closest star, we would assume, and again, it is an assumption, but I would assume. Let's. I'm not gonna put it on you guys. He jumped down as soon as he got it. I can't even. Don't even get me there. But it makes sense that the distance and the time that it would take to get here from another planet that is not circling our sun, it would take a long time unless they had the technology to move at a speed faster than light. So a third possibility, or rather a fourth possibility that they have, third possibility haven't visited. The fourth possibility is that we're over here and they're over here, and we can both only go about that far. And so there's all this space in the middle that we just cannot contact each other. And so we're constantly sending radio waves out in all directions to see if anything picks it up and sends it back. But if that were to happen, we started sending these messages out, I think, in the early 70s. And depending on the distance of the star, it could still have not gotten there. Meaning, if it hasn't even gotten there yet, and they can read the radio waves and understand what it is and send a message back, it's going to take another however long before we even know that they are understanding our message. They might have gotten our message and be on their way here on that multi-generational ship, and we wouldn't know. So I think those are, between those three and the fourth option, where we're both just orbiting too far away from each other, it's got to be one of them. Here we
go. Yeah, and again, given how many people believe this, it's what we need to talk about, especially with you, right? So for you to change your mind, you would need, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, trying to figure this out, not merely video testimony, but the records of downcraft.
Yes, some physical evidence, right?
Okay, but how would you know that evidence was actually alien?
Well, okay, so
Bingo.
There we would then need several layers of, scientists from these different universities examined the material and determined it was not of this earth and so on. Not just one person, but, labs from all over the world.
Non-terrestrial origin.
In the same way that, if you're a biologist and you want to name a new species and you show up at the conference.
Yeah.
And they go, hey, I have a big announcement. I found a second bipedal primate. It's still extant on Earth now. Oh my God, show us. Well, I don't have the body actually because it ran off. But it was 3 a.m. I was asleep in my tent and I heard this noise and I snapped this picture real quick. And if you kind of use your imagination and squint, you can sort of see the shadow. It looks like, how far is he going to get with a room full of biologists?
Exactly. And that's all we have right now. Whether it's Bigfoot or UFOs, that's all we really have as far as, civilians. We know that the government knows more. We know that for sure. Because they're, as they talked about, they're slowly releasing stuff. But we don't know what they know.
Nowhere. I mean, it's like, come on, dude. come back next year with the actual body,
Right.
and then we'll believe. Right?
Yeah, like Bigfoot. I'm that way with Bigfoot.
That's the analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
The same thing with aliens. Just show me the body.
okay, so
Not just me, us.
just to be clear, you said something that you're willing to put up $1,000 of your own money.
Yes, I did. That's
So
right. Yeah.
so could you please, what is your bet with people?
So the bet is you put up 1,000, I put up 1,000. We'll put it in a third-party account, and that put a definite date on it. So the date I put was January 1st, 2024. I'm willing to extend it to another year or two if they want. And that the criteria is the equivalent of the Chinese spy balloon. Just the Secretary of State, the President, the Pentagon, all state, yes, we have made contact for sure, 100%. It's covered on the evening. It's not just one news station that gets the exclusive, and no one covers it. I mean, just the whole, David Grush story, and it's huge. How come this was not even mentioned by ABC News, CBS News, NBC News?
Conspiracy.
I'm still not even sure what the challenge is. What is the challenge? $1,000 for what?
It's a conspiracy because they have fact checkers and they have screeners. They go, you know what, this is too speculative for us. We got to cover the real stories.
Okay, so now I have two questions. So is it correct that nobody's taking you up on that bet?
That's right. But it's not.
What bet? That you can get something on the news? We already know that the government has more information than has been on the news. So why is the news? That's some boomer shit right there. To use the evening news as your litmus test for truth. For a skeptic? Come on, man.
Some kind of gotcha bet. I'm not just making shit up here. There's a whole industry of the betting.
They are, though. The news is
prediction markets, money markets, but not money markets but prediction markets.
Long bets. Yeah.
So, and these have a long history of being more accurate on, let's say, political elections than polls do. So if you actually have to put skin in the game, you put your own money in, and I'm going to bet that Trump beats Hillary.
This is why whenever we talk about the polls and stuff, I always go to predictit.com instead of like Rasmussen or any of the other polls, because it's not the pollsters. It's actual group of individuals all voting with their dollars.
And the odds, and the odds makers set it up, it's 3-1 against. So you put up 1,000. If Trump wins, you win 3,000, and so on. This is all done. This is a whole industry of these prediction markets, and they're pretty accurate.
Nobody's taking. Okay,
yeah, no one will pick me up. They won't even respond to me when I.
Okay, if nobody's taking you up on it, to me that tells me they don't believe it,
or at least they're not very confident.
Yeah, or that they're genuine conspiracy theorists. They think that the conspiracy is so deep that
we'll never find out.
Biden's a lizard man or something insane.
It could be.
I mean, is that even really a conspiracy? Is that even really a conspiracy? No, I don't believe he's an actual lizard. But the claim that, oh yeah, I have this evidence, but of course, CNN is not going to show it because they don't want you to know this. And you say, oh, well, then you must not have it. That it doesn't work like that. Maybe in 1980, but it's not 1980, Michael Shermer.
See that? Yeah. I don't think they have the courage of their convictions. They go on Twitter and go, "Disclosure is coming any day." Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Right.
The resurrection.
And it's like, okay,
the second coming is coming any minute now.
Any minute now, right? So, okay, how about?
Yep, religious people do it too. But speaking of not trusting the news media, we just had a debate thing thrown down between RFK and Peter Hotez. Dude on Rogan. He's been Shermer's been on Rogan more times than I know, at least 3 or 4. So why not say, okay, I'll put in 1,000. Rogan, you down for 1,000? He'll probably be like, yeah, I'll do 5K. Why not? He puts in 5K and you put in $1,000. Both of you sit down, have the conversation. Why can't we do that? Why does it have to do with yeah, right? This dog, man.
we put a date on it. Oh, no, I'm not going to put a date on it. No.
Okay, so I know someone's going to listen to this and they say, well, if Shermer is so confident, so I've just had a go at the people who wouldn't take your bet. But if Shermer is so confident, why is it only 1,000?
Well, I didn't want to make it like, the $1 million challenge, and no one would do it for financial reasons.
Okay.
It's a modest amount. It's not
$1,000. January.
I'm willing to lose $1,000 to find out that there are aliens.
God, wouldn't that be great? I hope you lose.
Me too.
That would be dope.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But again,
I mean, that's definitely worth $1,000. That's definitely worth $1,000. If you have any reason to think that you can prove something, that's definitely worth $1,000. Hey, shout out to Indie Film. Welcome to the party. Say greeting from the free state of Florida. Plenty of lizards here. Well, and the question is DeSantis secretly one of them? Welcome to the party, brother.
pretty confident that if we find anything, that if Freedom of Information Act or congressional investigations turn up anything, it'll just be more stuff we were doing during the Cold War or even now. It's just like the WikiLeaks. Here you have millions of classified documents that were pretty damning of the U.S. government. Same thing with the Pentagon Papers. They were lying about this, that, and the other. We were spying on Angela Merkel. There were cell phone calls. We were doing this. We were doing that. Very embarrassing for the State Department. Nothing in there about aliens. 9/11 is an inside job.
Right.
Nothing like that. The moon landing was fake. Nothing.
Right.
So,
And to you, that's proof that those are real? How is that not just as dogmatic as the opposite? There was nothing in there. They didn't say anything about it. The government and the news media didn't tell us about something, so it must not be. That's your litmus test. All right.
and again, the Afghanistan papers that revealed, what was really going on in the Afghanistan war, very, very damning to the U.S. government, the Pentagon, the U.S. military. Nothing about, and by the way, they got aliens. Nothing. So if there was a cover-up, and there'd have to be some kind of paper trail somewhere.
Yeah.
Because you can't keep everybody shut up. Not everybody in the world signs an NDA and
Right.
and so on.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in him because that is absolutely not true. The way that, especially since the 70s, the way that these three-letter organizations are decentralized, ironically, you can have people working on something here and having no idea what the larger purpose is. You can have somebody working on, this piece of technology over here, and this person working on this piece of technology over here, and neither of them have any idea what it's in relation to, but they can backwards and reverse engineer it, and what's good. Now there's only one person who has to know and who has to keep quiet. Because the people working on, I don't know. I work for the CIA. They don't really tell me. I just got to figure out the science in this and reverse engineer it. I'm not saying that that's happening, but you, sir, Mr. Shermer, just claimed that it wasn't.
And even an NDA with something like aliens. I mean, that's just no. That's,
people sign NDAs all the time and then blow right through them.
Yeah, and that's not even remotely like an NDA for an alien invasion or something crazy. Okay.
Hey, thank you so much. Indie Film said, whoop, whoop. Let's give a treat to the puppy. See, this is why I need him in frame. This is why I get so annoyed when he won't sit there. Thank you. Very, very much appreciated. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you.
So I'm going to talk real quick about, I want to segue that into, you're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter.
Musk took over Twitter. My account exploded after he took over Twitter. Jack said that he wasn't shadow banning people, which was...
Shout out again to Indie Film.
Technically, I suppose, true. He was deboosting people. He used another word.
Yeah.
And
he was throttling.
You can bracket that, but Twitter wants to put, this is misinformation, and
is it though?
Certain the BBC wants to have a misinformation alert or what have you. So I wanted to ask you about what do you think?
Who decides that?
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I'm not crazy about it because who decides that? I mean, Elon's pro free speech, but the moment he goes down that pathway, then you have to set up some kind of committee, and then you have the algorithms, because how many people would you have to hire to monitor however many tweets there are per second, a million per second or something? How are you going to monitor that?
An algorithm.
So you'd have to have computers doing it, and then
Yeah, community notes they have. So it's interesting. I as a rule, I don't talk about COVID thing because I don't think anybody should listen to me, because I have literally no expertise in any domain that would be even remotely applicable to
That's fine, because all the people who did have expertise lied to us.
that. With that said, Matt Ridley and others were talking about the lab leak hypothesis. That was labeled a conspiracy theory. Everybody
Crazy.
jumped on
I
that.
know.
That was labeled disinformation, misinformation. And I do think it's important when you move in the public space that you say what you're wrong about things. So I want to say some things I was wrong about. I was wrong.
This is why we listen to people like this instead of CNN, because never, ever, ever, ever will you hear anything about saying that, oh, we need to say we were wrong, unless it's something so egregious that they can't get away with it. And you would have thought that lying about the vaccine would have been it, but they got away with it.
About the Hunter Biden laptop. I genuinely believed, and I would have assigned an extremely high likelihood that this was true, that it was Russian disinformation. I saw the letters signed by, this is before the legitimacy crisis was hitting home in our institutions, CIA, FBI. I'm like, okay, well, that was the first thing, by the way, the first moment after I realized, oh my God, maybe there is a deep state. Like maybe there really is
they're kind of
That's what red-pilled Dr. Peter Boghossian.
is Pete.
political.
It kind of is.
Yeah, like
it's not quite as deep as the conspiracy theorists make it out to be, but
Isn't it though? Which conspiracy theorists? The QAnon people? No. But I've been labeled a conspiracy theorist over the last 2 to 3 years, and I think I've been right about everything that that I said was a conspiracy. Not right about everything, but all the things I said, nope, that's bullshit, they turned out to be bullshit.
But again, we know from disclosures of what the CIA and FBI were doing over the last half century that there's a lot of stuff that none of the public knows about. Not only that, Congress doesn't know about it. Most of those revelations, like the Church Committee, and
Right.
they revealed a lot of the papers around the Kennedy assassination. It had nothing to do with the CIA, FBI involved in Kennedy assassination. Oswald acted alone. That's what everybody says.
Yeah, so there are
But
conspiracies.
There are conspiracies, yeah. So, but other things that our government and intelligence agencies do.
Yeah, this is I forget who it was. Might have actually been Shermer. It might have actually been him. But talking to somebody about conspiracy theories, and they said everybody is a conspiracy theorist. Put a 1 in the chat if you don't think that 9/11 happened. Not the who it was, but if you think it didn't happen, put a 1 in the chat. Oh, no ones. So that makes you a conspiracy theorist, because either you believe something along the lines of 19 Muslim hijackers took planes, they conspired to do that, or you believe something a little bit more nefarious within our own government, that they conspired to do this, that, or the other. That's all a conspiracy is. People coming together to do a thing that is not meant to be seen as that thing. That's it. Opus says there is a massive unelected administrative class in Washington. Massive. And they have all the incentive in the world to not want to talk about the things that they're not supposed to talk about. Now, with Project Veritas and OMG, we've seen that not all of them are going to be great, but it depends on the incentive, and it depends on, what can happen.
That they don't want our enemies to know about, therefore they keep them secret. I get that. I'm a big pro free speech advocate, so let Twitter just people post whatever they want. But obviously, there's edge cases. You can't have some ex-CIA guy or the Secret Service or whatever. I'm going to post on Twitter the nuclear codes to our
Obviously.
We can't do that, right? Or the edge case, ISIS recruiting people on Facebook. Okay, yeah, you have some restrictions, but the moment you go, well, if like here's my analogy, Holocaust denial should be banned, and it is. It's illegal in quite a few countries, not here, but even in Canada, it's considered hate speech, and you can go to jail by saying, I don't think 6 million Jews died. All right, what if I'm in the middle of the debate about how many Native Americans died due to European colonialism? Well, how many here were here pre-Columbus? Was it 90 million, 50 million, 10 million? There's debates about this. We don't know. There's no counting. There's no census, right? So, and how many of them died by disease versus extermination through war and conflict and so on? And there's debates about that. So what if I side on the low end? I think it was only 10 million, not 100 million that were here when Columbus came here. And I think only maybe half of them died due to violence and the rest is disease, something like that. Am I a denier? Am I a Holocaust denier? People, we gotta let people have their say. Even the crazies, even the people that are just bad intentioned.
Absolutely.
You have to let them have their say so that the rest of them that might be right. Like the lab leak hypothesis, I never understood why that had to be censored. It was never even a conspiracy theory that the Chinese did this on purpose. It was only that it was an accident.
You don't know why? That just disqualifies you from any type of understanding of politics specifically. You may be very good at thinking critically based on the knowledge that you have. But it's so very, 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 very clear that Fauci had every reason to hide the lab leak thing. Why do you think he went back and forth with Senator Paul? You don't know what you're talking about. Why do you think he changed the definition of gain of function research? Because he wasn't supposed to be doing it, and he was doing it anyway. We're not doing gain of function research. And then we get the I forget his name, the black dude that was caught on Project Veritas, and he was like, "Yeah, we're doing directed evolution."
What?
That's the same thing. I don't care what you call it. We don't want you taking viruses and making them more deadly viruses. Because, I know this is kind of crazy, but maybe, just maybe, one day, you make something super strong and it escapes the lab, almost like a leak or something. You don't know why? I am blown away. I had so much respect for this guy, and it all just went out the window. Shout out to Nick. Welcome to the party. Doing well. Hope you are as well. Welcome.
And there was something to do with gain of function research, which is done, and it just something went wrong. Why is that a problem to talk about?
Because it was. What if you? That's like asking why would Hitler not want to have people think that the Jews are not somehow different? Well, why is that a problem to talk about? Jews are just like everybody else. Why does Hitler not want that kind of speech?
What? Stupid.
Come on, bro.
And now it looks like that probably is what happened.
Yeah, and it went from not only a conspiracy, but a racist conspiracy to what people accept. I wanted to use that to talk about Rogan's invitation with $100,000 to the charity.
Let's
go. This guy's named Peter Hotek or something. Hotez to debate Kennedy, and you RFK, and you've put things out on Twitter about you think that Kennedy made false claims. But I want to bracket whether the claims are true or not. And I want to talk about that idea because I'm pretty sure. So I have a strong opinion about this, but
Okay, so before, I'm pretty sure he's going to ask, should Peter Hotez go on Rogan and take this debate with RFK Jr.? That seems to be where the question is leading. I've just lost a shit ton of respect for Michael Shermer by not seeing the direct line between the lab leak theory and Fauci getting in trouble. And then, the entire country not falling at his knees or falling to their knees at his feet. You know what I mean? If Michael Shermer says anything about platforming a guy like RFK, who is a Kennedy, who is running for president, I'm literally done with this guy. I'm done. Opus said a lot of that was about slandering Trump and his followers too. Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I'm thinking about his critical thinking skills. And his critical thinking skills are there, but you can only think critically about what you know. And if you don't understand that there is actually these conspiracies afoot, that there are these super high stakes for specifically Fauci perpetuating that it was not, in fact, a lab leak theory or a lab leak, then you're just not paying attention. You may have the faculties. And what did he say at the very beginning? What did he say at the very, very beginning of this? It may be worse to have the faculties and not do the thinking than not have the faculties at all. He didn't use those words, but he said it's better, or rather, it's worse that you have the tools and you don't, remain skeptical, whatever the phrasing he used, than not have the tools to remain skeptical in the first place. He has the tools, but he's not being skeptical about this. I said, if you ain't racist yet in 23 by the leftist standards, you ain't breathing. Facts.
I want to get yours, and then I'll tell you what mine is. Do you think Hotez should have accepted that
Called it
debate offer?
I do.
Okay.
I mean,
all
first
right.
of all, the
Whew. All right. Okay. I haven't lost all respect for him. All right. We're back to like, okay, you have a blind spot here, but and thank you, Nick.
the ante is now up to over $2 million.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
Is it really?
A bunch of rich people jumped in and said, "I'll put in 100,000," and then pretty soon,
Holy shit! I did not know that.
Yeah, it's like 2.1 or 2.6 million dollars to the charity of his choice. How about you go on Rogan, debate Kennedy, and then put $2.6 million into vaccines that you work on producing? Why not do that? Or
because he's scared.
Give it to the Gates Foundation, or to mosquito nets, whatever is your thing. My guess is the reason he doesn't want to do it.
Okay, so now if his guess as to why Peter Hotez does not want to debate what he knows so well and says that RFK is spreading so much disinformation that he would be able to easily mop the floor with him. If Shermer says it has anything other than it has to do with the fact that he would show that there is some reason to distrust these institutions. Anything other than that, and we're going back down again. I'm not dealing with this BS anymore. It doesn't matter if you're a smart person. It doesn't matter if you're honestly, unfortunately, it doesn't even matter if you're a common respectful person as much anymore. It does matter, but you have to do the work. You have to do the work. It is not enough to think you feel like you're on the right side. Better to do the work and be on the wrong side than not do the work and end up on the right side.
And because I have done this many, many times, is because it's a lot of work, and it's not enough to know a lot about vaccines, which he does. You have to know, what is this guy going to argue? What is his points? And you got to go through them one by one.
So go through them one by one. Have you not seen RFK Jr. on a podcast in the last 3 months? Have you not seen a new podcast that he's been on? He's everywhere. He's talking about this long form all over the place. Just watch the episodes of the podcast. Write down what he says. Write down why he's wrong. And then just go read the paper. And you get millions of dollars. But you're probably already getting millions of dollars. From who? The people who don't want us to know the truth. The same people who changed the definition of gain of function to directed evolution. The same people who said that the lab leak theory was not only a conspiracy theory, but it was racist. The same people. Where's your pattern recognition?
Like Kennedy will come up with, well, Joe, let me tell you about this study that was done back in 1991, published in this particular journal that found this thing here. Now, of course,
okay, but you do it.
yeah,
You do it.
I know. But again, it's a lot of work, and he could be made to look bad if Kennedy comes up with something he doesn't know about. Like, again, a obscure journal article published back in.
Okay, great. Then let him look bad for the betterment of all of us to understand the truth about vaccines, something very fundamental to how we live. I think it's up to like over 70 vaccines within the first 2 years or something like that, right? That seems like it would be worth. I would be willing, if I knew or I thought I knew enough about this specific topic, I would risk looking bad because the truth matters that much. But not to Peter Hotez.
1976 that showed autism linked to blah blah blah, and he's like, I don't know that study. Well,
then know it.
Study, then you'd see I'm right.
Okay, so what is
this?
That?
Is the risk?
What is?
It's not a risk because then you pull up the study and say, okay, let's read the study. Here's what's wrong with the study. That is bullshit.
To say about the state of trust in science as an institution if
well, it's not good for the public. They see that happen and they go, you know what is this? What's this guy's problem?
Correct. Not only what's his problem, but maybe RFK is onto the truth.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And maybe he is. Maybe he's not. But if he's not, then why is it that you are so unwilling to just say the truth? If you are this scared, remember, what did he say about all the people who are not taking up his $1,000 offer to prove that there's aliens by getting a story on the evening news or something? That they must not actually believe. So are you telling me that Peter Hotez doesn't actually believe in vaccines? Specifically the COVID vaccine? Specifically RNA technology? Well, then what is the issue?
And then maybe there really is this vast conspiracy. I didn't know it was up to 2 million. I thought it was 100,000. But why wouldn't he do this? So here's my take on it. If he were just a normal, everyday scientist who had no Twitter account, who never went on Rogan, who had no social media profile, who didn't move in the public space, who kept
Listen up. This is perfect reasoning.
To himself, he probably shouldn't do it. Right? I mean, that would be up to him.
Yeah, the idea
that'd be up to him. But he's already in the public space. He already went on Rogan. He's already participating in public life. And people see him not doing that. And I think then the conspiracy theorists really go crazy. But
exactly. That would be like if there was, let's say that, Trump just said that, he got indicted and likely that means he's going to get arrested. So let's say that happens. And Tim Pool doesn't cover it. That'd be a little bit different than if you didn't make a video about it, right? But if you're Tim Pool, you kind of have to do a video about that. If you are Peter Hotez, how are you just going to not?
Beta. But one of the things that was so disturbing to me about this was that you said that he should debate, and correct me if I don't, the chronology, I completely agree with you, given the fact that he already participated in public life. And then you and Tom Nichols had what I considered to be a very reasonable disagreement, and then he blocked you.
Yeah, weird.
Like, that was crazy to me.
Yeah.
What?
He blocked him? Bro, I didn't know that. It's what a weak ass little bitch.
He unblocked me. It's like, okay, whatever.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to go down the details of this, but like, you mean to tell me, I mean, he was on your show, you've read his stuff. I quote his book all the time. I thought it was really good. I think we do death of expertise. I think we do need experts in the society. I think that's one of the reasons I'm so bothered by the crisis of legitimacy in our institutions.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
because the people who are the experts are either not experts or they're experts at lying.
was something, I don't know if this was like a 2023 moment or something with like, he's caught in the orbit of critical social justice where you don't debate or you don't talk to people, or it's not that Michael Shermer's wrong, he's an enemy, I don't know what it was, but I was so disappointed that he blocked you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, maybe it's Twitter that it drives people crazy. I don't know, makes them very polarized. I'm not sure.
Beta!
I mean, part of the problem, again, I mean, you
Shout out to Dave Smith and part of the problem.
identified it perfectly. If it was a nobody that doesn't do debates, is not in the public, then he has a lot to lose by going on Rogan. Yeah, but this guy, he should be able to do this. And if he considers himself a public servant, like my job is to get out there
Mhm.
and okay, well, this guy who's running for president again, how can you platform RFK Jr.? How can you he has a platform.
Yeah, over 1 million Twitter followers. He's not only does he have a platform.
I'm just gonna say that I put this banner up, and I asked for something before. So mods, make sure you're modding.
He is, I don't know if he'll actually debate Biden because of the DNC, but he is the most likely, if there is somebody who's going to, I don't want, how do I challenge Biden would be a polite way to say it, it would be RFK. And he's actually, oddly enough, he's extremely popular among many left-leaning Republicans, many soft
Yes,
soft
I've
Republicans.
noticed that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last poll I saw was like 20% of Democrats
Right.
not support him.
So it's not just that
He's not a nobody.
It's not only that it's not a nobody, but he moves in the political space.
Right.
So it would seem it'd be even more incumbent upon someone else who already moved in the public space.
Right,
And
exactly.
for you to point that something like that out, and then for someone to say to you, well, basically, right? For someone to say that to you, and then the consequences to block you, to me, that says far more about them. Now, to his credit, he unblocked you, but I think it's part of the craziness that we're experiencing now, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, that's a problem.
so could
Right.
we apply John Stuart Mill's pro-speech trident argument to this? 100% wrong,
Trident.
partially true, 100% true.
Yeah.
Not is anybody familiar with that? The Trident argument? No, I'm gonna look that up.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, okay, let's go through those. What's wrong with listening to RFK Jr.? I mean, we should listen to him. Why?
Nothing.
Well, first of all, he might be right.
Okay, let's see. I got something here. It says the pros and cons of the Trident. Amid growing fears of international. I don't think this is what we're talking about. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about. So it has to do with the Cold War. Okay. Huh. All right. Well, if anybody knows, help us out. But we're just going to assume, a three-pronged argument.
What's wrong with listening to RFK Jr.? I mean, we should listen to him. Why? Well, first of all, he might be right about some things. And listening to him with Rogan 3 hours, you get a lot of stuff, right? So when he talks about the regulatory capture by big pharma and big tobacco and stuff, I know enough about that to know that's actually true. I have a whole section in my conspiracy book on the capturing of the regulatory state by big tobacco through Naomi Oreskes' book Merchants of Doubt, and how they apply they apply the same methods to.
Didn't they make that into a movie? I've heard that Merchants of Doubt. I've heard that name thrown around a lot, but I haven't really. I'm not too familiar. You guys know?
To casting doubt on climate change, and it's like, yeah, that's actually true. That actually happened. Or big pharma, kind of cheating the regulatory system to get drugs through. Like, this is why we have an opioid crisis, because they lie to the public and to doctors saying, we have clinical evidence. Here's our data showing that these drugs are not addictive. They were lying. So when Kennedy says this happened and I'm like, yeah, actually, he's right. And enough people, okay, so how about we listen to him since he's running for president? And we go, okay, these are the parts he's right. These are the parts he's wrong. And here's why he's wrong, and so on.
Exactly.
So, yeah, okay, so he might be right. He might be partially right. Even if he's 100% wrong.
Okay, so those are the three options: that he's completely right, he's partially right, or he's completely wrong. Let's find out.
A lot of people think what he thinks. So how strong is your position to counter what he thinks because other people believe it if you don't listen to him?
Right. So one of the things that you did,
That's cope. That's cope. Well, other people are already on his side, so they already think what they think. Therefore, I'm not even gonna try to change their minds.
what?
That's some beta shit.
Beta. And I speak about this is you went to, was it Treblinka, the concentration camp, and the claim from the Holocaust deniers was why is there, among the claims was why is there no lock on the door?
Oh yeah, that was at Mauthausen. Yeah, the lock on the
I'm sorry,
the door
Matt,
doesn't lock it on the gas chamber. Yeah.
So you went and I think this is an example less of debate, but when someone makes a claim, when someone else answers that claim, it doesn't fester,
Right.
right?
So this used to be called the backfire effect, the belief that just talking about it will backfire on you, and the people will believe it even more, the falsehood. But in fact, those studies didn't replicate.
Right.
And it looks like now that people do change their minds.
So let's change to this. So those Neiman and Reifler or something, that study was very influential in my work, and it was very influential for why when I have conversations with people across divides, I don't invoke any evidence because of the backfire effect. But if you look at the studies in which those to see if you can replicate it, I have a problem with those studies, and that is, I think that the backfire effect is still operative depending upon the moral valence of the claim. The stronger the moral claim, the more likely it is.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with the backfire effect, is that if somebody believes something, then showing them evidence to the contrary is likely to actually further entrench them in what they already believe. So and as he said, the more morality that is tied to the claim, the more the blowback is going to be. So if I come to you with facts about the Bible as a Christian, then neurologically, or I guess psychologically, because you have a strong moral claim to that, and that's very close to your morals, your first instinct is to have your backup, because if Christianity isn't true, then that means so many other things for my life. Whereas if, I tell you that there's coffee in this mug, and then I show you that there's not coffee in this mug, then you're a lot more likely to be like, oh, okay, I guess there's not coffee in that mug, because there's no part of your personality or identity tied to what I have in my mug.
So and again, I have no evidence. I only have a truly mountain of anecdotal evidence for this, but strong moral claims elicit a backlash when providing evidence. So I question the fact.
Yeah,
I question.
That's a testable hypothesis. Yeah, but
Totally.
that should be done. Yeah, could be. Again, back to my previous example of, if you're challenging somebody with some facts, but also challenging their core beliefs,
Correct.
By which they identify themselves. This is my religion. This is my political party.
Identity level salience, moral concerns.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, that's right. And therefore, there you have to do an end run around that and say, we're not talking about that. Just take that off the table. Keep all that. I just want to talk about this one little fact right here. Just CO2 emissions or whatever it is. And here's the studies and so on. And just focus on that.
Okay.
So let me ask you, if I may, a personal question. Are you homeschooling your son?
No.
I was trying to stop it before well, you're gonna have to wait until whatever the company that's in here reaches out to sponsor me, because you never ever put anything out there for free, including Jersey Shore extracts. If you're from Jersey and you're looking for some good, go and get it. But I was hoping to pause it before he answered the question, are you homeschooling your son? And he said no. I'm curious to see where he is, because given how out of touch he seems with this side of political discourse, like, well, why wouldn't we be able to talk about the lab leak theory? I'm wondering if he's going to say no, but I would like to, or something along those lines, or no, why would I? Because I would have expected him to say no. I'm very curious why.
Oh, Montessori.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
They have a
Private
constructivist pedagogy, but at that age, I think it works. It's not epistemological constructivism. It's like, nurture their interest and
It's very hands-on.
Yeah.
Maria Montessori developed some, I think, very effective ways of teaching
It's rich people private school.
math and reading, counting, 1, 10, 100, 1,000, the 10,000 block and so on, these little beads.
Yeah.
Billy says it's BS. Why is it BS? What's BS about it? I'm not challenging you. I don't know.
I've walked it through it with him. It's like, oh, this is really good. And
Okay.
learning to read. I've been, he's only 7. He's just doing it now. And it's pretty effective. Also, there's no, class.
Is that an average age? Learning to read at 7? I feel like that's kind of late. Right?
Classroom with rows of desks that like the little Prussian soldiers. The educational system was developed to make good little soldiers, good little workers. It's not like that at all. And he's a little guy with high energy. You can't make him sit down like that. So they do a lot of running around. I think what you're getting at, how about when he's in middle school or whatever?
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, because Bailey, you were the first one to say like classical education, that's the only way. The fact that they're not that the Montessori schools are not teaching the way that public schools are, is it going like in the wrong direction? Like where it's so like amorphous and it's just like whatever you feel like doing and whatever makes you happy. Because I wouldn't be surprised. Bailey says children from a young age should have much more practice with memorization. Montessori works more with full body learning when children inherently learn more from writing. Okay. I'll take that. I don't learn well that way. I'm a doer. I'm a kinetic learner. So, I mean, people learn in different ways. She goes on to say Montessori is very, very, very anti-classical. It's not teacher-centered whatsoever. It's contrarian for the sake of contrarianism. So would it be fair to say classical education is here, public schools are here, Montessori is here? Is that your opinion? Just trying to get an idea.
Even in Santa Barbara, the schools, the Wokeness stuff is
That's
everywhere.
Exactly right.
So my wife and I, she went to an all-girls Catholic school in Cologne, Germany. And we were thinking, even though we're both atheists, we'd rather have a Catholic school for our little guy than one of these crazy woke schools where he's told he's not a boy, he's a girl, or whatever craziness will be going on. I am hopeful, if you want to get to the, have we hit the turning point on this yet? That now that Bud Light and Nike and all that stuff with
this is what I've been talking about, guys. I haven't heard anybody else really hitting the tipping point argument like I have. I don't know that maybe other people are, but I haven't heard it. And I spent all day looking through shit. This might be the first time I'm hearing somebody actually talk about the tipping point, the pendulum swinging in the other direction. Maybe. But as I said before, it's better to have the proper tools of thinking and not ending up at the wrong position than ending up in the right position by the wrong means. So we'll take it with a grain of salt.
With Dylan Mulvaney and all that. It could be that is now not going to be in vogue for young people anymore. It's like, oh, corporate America's got behind this. That's not the cool thing to be anymore.
That's what I said.
So if the social contagion hypothesis is true, that
which it is,
to this is being driven.
I'm completely convinced it's true.
Yeah, it could be that now that's not the socially cool thing to do. So it's going to be something else. And then this will die down.
That's what I've been saying, is that I am hoping that is what's going to happen, is that as Gen Z sees millennials be millennials, as they grow out of their teen and early 20s, where they're really starting to come into themselves, when millennials should have come into into their own. And we see just millennials essentially, maybe monolith is a strong word, but I mean, if you're a Zoomer or Gen X or older, am I wrong? Like, a millennial is so millennial. Why are we all like this? But I'm hoping that Gen Z is going to grow out of that in the way that millennials never did. So going back to the Montessori schools and learning styles, Bailey says, as we grow, our different learning styles differentiate. As young children, we all learn similarly. Montessori is as effective as public schools, just different. Teacher-centered classical ed is the best. So you use that phrase a couple times. What exactly does teacher-centered look like? Yeah, I'm fine with that question. Zippy says, unless you're learning disabled, disabled? You got Star Wars on the brain, guys. Unless you're learning disabled, then fewer things work. Elementary school in the 80s was hell. I bet you it's worse now. I bet you it's worse now.
The only, I mean, I don't care what people do, tattoos or dye their hair, change their hairstyles. I'm a boomer. We rejected our parents' values, and so that's fine. But it's the permanent change,
Irreparable damage.
irreparable damage. They're not.
So, okay, so let me.
And that's again a huge point about this idea that it's a fad, that it's a social thing, that it's a trend. When I was in school, it was being goth or being emo, and all that meant was that you wore your hair a certain way, that you bought girls' jeans instead of guys' jeans, that you wore certain types of clothes. That's it. And when you grow out of it, then you can grow out of it. Now, again, a lot of millennials are emo for life, but the point being is that you can grow out of that. And exactly, Nick. I hope you're right that this fad is on the way. Please, Jesus, make it so. I can't make it so, but I can do my part. Definitely I can. I am trying. With your guys' support, I definitely can do more. Teachers, Bailey said, teacher-centered is where the teacher is the master of a subject, not the facilitator. Okay? It'll be easier to explain in the Discord after too much education world jargon. So a great point. Meet us in the after party. Discord link is in the chat, and make sure you come and join us. We are in there 24/7 hanging out, talking, playing games, doing stuff. And after every single live stream, we go in there for the after panel, just like Bailey is talking about, where you're not stuck behind your keyboard, but you're on screen with me and her and everybody else. Come and join us. It is free. Opus says, I disagree. Of course, Montessori is more effective than public school. It may not be as great as touted, but is better substantially. Okay, so we have a little bit of a disagreement. Let's do this, because we may not have as much of a disagreement as I think. Which is better? And of course, this is going to go, by averages. Public school or Montessori? Let me know in the poll. Replay gang, let me know what's your experience with Montessori and public school and homeschooling. What are you doing with your kids and why? Let me know in the comments below. Zippy, it is strange, says, I don't know. There's so much auxiliary learning. With autism and learning disabilities and other mental issues, there's a lot of resources for communities and parents to use at some to little cost. You're talking about public school, or you're talking about public schools, right? Or are you talking about the Montessori schools? So, Bailey's, I'm going to ask you to give a little bit to better of an answer than I can give, because you clearly know a lot more about it than I do. But it's just a specific style of private school, and they focus more on actually, that's as much as I know. So, Bailey, take it away. And we will definitely be in the Discord. So if she wants to wait for that, then so will you.
Let me ask you a question about that. The older I get, be 57 next month. The more I think it's
to be 50-something again.
To be 50-something.
You young men.
About that, feeling my age all the time.
It never stops. It never stops. Once you turn 15, 17, somewhere along there, then you cannot help. You cannot help it. When you're talking to somebody younger than you, that's all you can focus on. I don't know why. It's so annoying when older people do it to me, and I can't help but doing it to anybody who's younger. I just don't know. Bailey said, I think there's a chance that the establishment has convinced the younger generation that they are actually fighting for anti-establishmentarianism when they shill this crap.
Bingo.
You're absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct, which is why it has persisted with Gen Z as far as it has. But this is not reality. And I'm, again, hoping that they can see that. They will understand, oh, we've been doing this. And it might not be until they're in their 30s. But I didn't pay attention to politics at all until I was in my 30s. Or maybe not quite then, but, late 20s. So there's time. There's still time. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm very worried that it's not. But I'm hoping. I'm hoping. Zippy said, education in general. Insurance. Insurance pays for someone. Oh, okay, cool. Didn't know that. Word up. Oprah said, Montessori is substantially better simply by virtue of teacher to student ratio alone, before even considering teacher style. I would be on there. I'm going to guess Bailey is the singular public school vote. We have 5. Oh, okay. So we got 5 votes. We're now at 80% Montessori, of which is better, public school or Montessori. Zippy said you could say it's all filed under speech therapy. So yeah, I think that, if you fall under that category, then you're going to have a lot more, like you said, a lot more resources available to you. But I guess fortunately, most kids don't apply for that stuff. So that would be more auxiliary to what we're really talking about for the average child. Bailey said Montessori is an educational method where the kids are meant to lead their own education. They're more self-directed and a lot more physical ed involved. So, as opposed to the standard. So, Bailey, would you agree? So again, I'm still trying to get, where the scale is. So is public school, if we have the 3, we have public school, we have Montessori, and we have homeschooling. Is Montessori at the bottom, or is public school at the bottom? That's really what I'm trying to figure out. Open said this parallels Mao's revolution scarily closely. They all do. I mean, any authoritarian revolution, they all start like this. They all do.
So the older I get, the more I realize we have to start making compromises with our fellow citizens. So here's my take on the trans thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Under no circumstances should anybody under the age of 18 be allowed to medically transition. No loop ring, none of that.
So far, I'm totally with him. So before he goes on, my position, again, that is kids, no. We see the desistance rates are too high, that it is scientifically unmedical. I don't know where I was going with that sentence, but it's not, it's not the, I completely forgot where my brain was going, but no kids under 18 doing anything. Over 18, I don't care. Then when it comes to the culture of the issue, this is why it's so important to separate the "we are coming for your children" people and the people who are like, I'm just a dude who likes other dudes. I don't want to deal with all this social stuff. Like, I just want to be with another dude in my own home. Leave me alone. Or I just want to change into pretend that I'm a woman and I don't think I'm actually a female, but I just feel better with long hair and makeup and boobs and whatever. Those are 2 different groups of people. St. Michael will disagree, and that is hurting his cause to stop the "we are coming for your children" people. That, I think, is the most important sticking point of the entire issue, is separating those 2 groups. Because when we can show that it's not about transphobia or homophobia, and groups like Gays Against G Rumors, they are definitely helping that. But it needs to be more people that understand the difference. So I'm hoping that's where, if he goes there, I'm going to be very impressed. Well, I don't know if impressed. He's a lot smarter than me, but be very happy.
However, people have to have some dominion over their own body. They need some kind of sovereignty. What do you think about the idea? And I've gotten a lot of heat from people on the left about, because I don't personally think it's a left-wing or right-wing issue, but I've gotten a lot of people, for lack of a better word, who participate in critical social justice, who are adamant that children believe they're born. You need to listen to their self-experiences, etc.
Sounds kind of like some Montessori type shit, right? No, am I wrong? Oh, I missed this one. Okay, so I was asking, homeschooling, Montessori schools, and public schools. Bailey says, I think homeschooling is best, and Montessori and public fall on the same level, but they can both have vastly different pros and cons. Private schools that utilize different methods can be the best. Okay, understand where you're coming from now. Thank you.
And then for people on the right that say it should be 25, your brain isn't fully developed to 25. Where are you on that?
Well, already.
I'd be fine with 21. I would begrudgingly be okay with 18. But 18 is the floor.
You draw the line, yeah. So I think there's a different phenomenon. So gender dysphoria, which affects very young children from an early age who identify as the other sex. These are like tomboys, girls that are tomboys that like to play with trucks and cars and run around and rough and tumble play and so on. And there's boys that are more feminine. Okay. And so the gender dysphoria is sort of extreme version of that.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's this new thing, rapid onset gender dysphoria, which seems to happen later in teens as kids go through start puberty. Their bodies are changing. They're uncomfortable with this. They're anxious.
Yeah, that's called puberty. Were any of you not uncomfortable during puberty? Explain to me how you can know that discomfort that you felt going through puberty is not the exact precise thing that rapid onset gender dysphoria is. Semantic obfuscation.
Depression, all the hormones, it causes all sorts of things. And the first category of gender dysphoria looks to be, just vanishingly small, just like 0.01%, not even that, just like 1 out of 200,000 people, very, very small. This is huge. I mean, as we've seen, it's like a 5,000% spike in people who self-identify as the other sex or no sex at all or whatever.
I'm pretty sure it's like 20% of Gen Z, no? Right? That's got to be. What percentage of Gen Z is LGBT? Gotta put the Q. Nearly 20%. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Appears to be social contagion. All the evidence is that's a social contagion because it's not happening in other age cohorts. If it was just that society is more liberal and so there's more freedom to come out.
So think about that. Think about how we talked about the more or the closer to your moral identity a claim is, the harder it's going to be for you to accept facts to the contrary. So, luckily, Bailey can't cut her skin off of her arms and create a penis because that probably wouldn't work out well for her. But if she did, then what type of mental psychological process do you think she would have to go through? And I'm just using you as an example, obviously, to actually accept, no, I made a mistake. I'm actually not a man. And I went through all of this, spent all this money, got all of this adulation and all of this perceived oppression for nothing. This is why it's taking longer. We would expect that rebellion, that teenage rebellion, to happen in their teens. But they made choices in their teens that affect them so deeply that it's going to take a longer time for them to fall out of it, if they do fall out of it. Otherwise, we're looking at the kindergartners today. We're looking at Gen Alpha to be the ones that put this world back where it needs to be. Bailey said it's obviously that it wasn't accepted before now, and now it is, so everyone comes out. How could I not have understood that very clear and obvious point? Nick says not having kids. I don't know what school is like today, but it's important enough that I'm interested in knowing what's going on these days. And puberty was hell. It sucked, but we all survived. Well, I mean, we didn't all survive. People, self-deleted because puberty was not working out for them. But that's the point. That's the point. The point is that we can't take the universal discomfort that comes from going through puberty and just magically somehow differentiate it from gender dysphoria. Until you know, no, this is just normal feelings of puberty, and this is gender dysphoria. Until you can differentiate the two, transitioning shouldn't even be an option, at least for children.
That's the claim.
It should happen in the other age cohorts, not just 13 to 17, but 18 to 22 and 23 to 28 and so on, all the other age cohorts. And it's not happening in any of those. So,
right. And Zippy, yeah, this is a fantastic point that goes on top of everything that we've just been saying. So how many different reasons now have we listed for Gen Z to stick in their BS ideology? Then you add the fact that we are in an attention economy, and that you can be not only get that attention, but profit off of that attention. Yet another thing that's going to prevent psychologically an entire generation from being able to see, oh, we messed up, or at least that they lied to us. Great point, Zippy. Great point.
There are people I know, trans, that who tell me that they never felt comfortable with it. They
Stop the cap.
One guy, a woman now, said, I just could not stand that I had a penis. I just did not want this. It felt like an alien part. It's not who I am, and had it cut off. And that happens. And we should show sympathy for these people. They really are experiencing something. This has nothing to do with the rapid onset gender dysphoria. This is the original gender dysphoria.
Agreed.
So I think if we separate that we can use evidence to talk about different things.
Bingo.
Then, in terms of where to draw the line, well, we already deal with these issues. What's the right age for drinking alcohol? 21, 18. How about voting? 18.
Again, I'm good with raising all of that. You are a minor until you're 25. I am perfectly happy with that.
Alcohol, 21. How about getting a driver's license? Used to, when I was 14 and 15, I think I got my driver's license. Now it's older, 16, I guess. And I mean, you have to draw a line somewhere. This is how the law works. Biology doesn't work that way. Some people could drive when they're 12.
So what's your line?
For the trans thing, I would say adulthood, generally 18.
That's mine.
Yeah.
That's mine as well.
And then, before that.
Well, I mean, you can't have a different opinion without being a bigot. Like, at least saying 18 is in the eyes of the leftists, that's at least reasonable to some of them. They disagree with you, but they can see that, okay, you're focusing on the kids. But what if I say 25? I'm just a bigot.
Okay, so the argument is that, but if you don't let them do it early and they go through puberty, it's too late.
That's right.
Well, yeah, but somebody could say, well, I identify as being able to drive at 12, but we have to draw the line somewhere, so we have laws.
Or you could just wear whatever the fuck clothes you want, and then if you still feel like a trans at 18, then go for it.
I suppose there could be some edge cases where, with parental consent and
nope,
the doctors are all, and there's been many, many years of checking and so on.
But that doesn't happen. We've seen too many, even if they are individual anecdotal cases, as we're talking about before. Depending on what it is, an anecdote can vary in the strength of your conclusion. And if I have one person who told me that they went into a doctor's office and within 30 minutes they got a prescription for puberty blockers or hormone therapy or whatever it was, then we know that that's not happening. That's not the many, many years of checking. And they use the same argument. Well, if we use many years, then he's going to go through puberty. He's not going to be able to transition. Good. In most cases, good.
I don't even know.
But there's always a risk of that going too far.
Yeah.
Where the parents are super woke and they're getting virtue signals by saying my child is the other sex and we're on board with their transitioning.
And it's not even just the parents. Now we're talking about the doctors. I forget who it was, but I did a video from it was a Michael Knowles video I reacted to about a guy who was a legitimate doctor who determined that in his practice, pregnancy itself was a life-threatening condition. Therefore, any abortion at any point is justifiable. Because she's pregnant. So that's life for the mother. So we can't even trust the institutions. It's not even about the parents. Because it used to be the parents didn't know any better, so they go to the doctors, and the doctor is the authority. But now the government is the authority. And the government says you have to do what the child says. Which how can that not lead? How can that not lead to allowing children to consent to sexual stuff? I don't understand how that's not the direct A to B. We're not talking about slippery slope. I'm talking about A to B. If a child can consent to this, why wouldn't they be able to consent to that? It's a one-to-one. Opus said, yeah, doctors, teachers, other students, Nike, etc. No transing the kids.
And they make the decision. This could all be settled, Pete, very soon if there's lawsuits.
So
And there will be. I've been saying since we covered What is a Woman last June, since we did that, I've been saying once the Scott Peterson, that might be the wrong name, but once that person said that it's typically 7 to 10 years, and they'll typically do studies under 5 years, but the detransition rate and the self-deletion rate skyrockets at that 7 to 10 year mark. And we are just about 7 to 10 years into this BS. And I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's just TikTok feeding me what I want to see. But I've seen a lot more detransition content than I have ever before. Zippy says, so the slippery slope needs a C? Yes, it does. Because then you're just talking about cause and effect. A slippery slope needs, well, this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and that's going to happen, and that's going to lead to people having sex with kids. But all of those other things have happened already. We're already here. So whether you think that whatever led up to today is part of that slope, that's moot. Because now it doesn't need to be a slippery slope or a non-slippery slope. It's just A to B. It's cause and effect. If you tell children that they can consent to permanent changes to their body, what is your reasoning to say that they can't consent to sexual relations? You don't have one. You don't have one. And this is why we are fighting so hard against it. Nick says, government is horrible at everything. We don't need them effing up the kids. Exactly. Hey, shout out to Jeff Peterson. Welcome to the party, brother. Says slippery slope turned into a free fall.
bingo.
It did. And I was one of the people, like, I don't believe, I'm not, let me amend that statement. I'm not ready to say that marriage equality was the beginning of this slope. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. Specifically because of the differentiations that we tried to make. And especially since we see things like gays against groomers, they're just not as closely tied as I think people who are making the slippery slope argument are making them. But either way, that slope is slippery. And as Jeff said, it's turning into a free fall. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. Yeah, so the slope is a chain of events, exactly. With the education system as it is, government is already effing the kids. Oof. Haram for sure.
As you know better than anybody, our brains are not wired for double-blind peer-reviewed testimony. Our brains are peer review. Our brains are wired for testimony. There's a great book, Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes. Have you read that
title.
one?
No.
It's
I don't know
about
that book.
these
But I like the
missionaries.
title.
About these missionaries who or this missionary who goes into proselytize to a tribe who's never been. Nobody could penetrate their language, but they only communicated basically, do you know Jesus? Do you know someone who knows Jesus? Is it like, so the testimony was their privileged epistemology. You had Helen Joyce on your show.
Yeah, Zippy says, liberal mindsets do not see the other side of the coin. They fight for one thing and ignore the other. It's just, the old joke is a good thing. That's good thing. Good thing? That's good thing? Okay, I like good thing. You like good thing? No? You bad thing. Exactly going back to the black and white binary thinking that we started this conversation off with. That we should be using the what was it, the Bayesian logic of probability. What is the probability that this is true? Rather than I know this is certain. This is either this or that. Being more nuanced and understanding that things aren't so simple.
Show. So I'm going to show a clip here. We have a clip queued up, Reed.
Yeah, just get his take on this. It sounds...
I'd like your take on this, because this was to me so interesting.
I read and I heard Jason D. Hill, the philosopher, said that the actual instance of trans is 0.06.
I mean, I don't believe there's any actual instance of trans. I don't believe it's that kind of thing. It's a culture-bound syndrome.
Based.
You think the whole thing is no?
Dietrich, you still here?
Not the not
no,
like.
I believe the whole thing is a culture-bound syndrome.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, completely. Because what does it mean to say that a man can really be a woman?
Nothing.
In fucking Samoa.
So you don't believe that there's anybody like Buck Angel or any of these people who literally have something in their brain?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If Buck Angel had lived in a different society, in what sense could Buck Angel have ever got the idea into Buck Angel's head that they were meant to be a man or were really a man?
Hard to argue. Hard to argue with that. And we always hold up Blair White and Buck Angel as the I'll use their pronouns. But it is a very poignant and interesting question to ask. Well, we don't know what Buck Angel would have been like if they just lived the rest of their life as a woman. And same with Blair White. We don't know what would have happened with Blair White if... See, I'm getting confused with the bullshit already. But if she lived, continued to live as a man, we don't know. We don't know. Maybe they are just happy people, and despite the fact that they mutilated themselves, they continue to be happy people. Prove that it's not that. Yeah, I can. Just words. Just words. I'm really a man. How do you know? Have you ever been a man? Then how do you know what it feels like?
That's really funny.
Okay, what's your take on that?
I guess it depends on what it is we're talking about. I mean, a man can't become a male can't become a female and vice versa. It's not possible to literally reprogram your entire body, every cell in your body, all your genes, your gonads.
Isn't it sad that we're now cheering? We're cheering for people simply saying, yeah, a male is a male and can't be a female. What? How did we get here?
You start producing, you're a man, and all of a sudden you can start producing eggs because you took you took androgen or whatever. That will never happen. So technically, if that's what she means, then yeah, of course, there's no such thing. I think what's actually happening, though, is there are other factors, hormonal factors, probably in the womb, in utero changes that are different. And from an early age, again, I mentioned this, that, these tomboys, and maybe what she means there is that those are just tomboys, and maybe they grow out of it. Maybe they become lesbians.
No, she means...
Yeah. And so, Zippy, I agree. You're saying if society was not hell-bent on gender roles, and trans would not be a thing. But we don't want to commit the mistake of thinking that just because the trans issue would not be an issue, that there would be no issues. They would find a way to victimize themselves. This is just the manifestation of what was already there. This idea of oppression and oppressor and oppressed, as I apologize, whoever said it before, authoritarian regimes start with this type of wrong thing, this type of overturning of social norms. So you are correct, but don't get it twisted. The people who are pushing this stuff, if it wasn't the trans, they'd be pushing something else that I don't know how it could get much worse, but at least as bad. Nick says, I was hoping you knew how we got here so he could tell me. I have no idea. I mean, I don't not have any idea. So we definitely, there's, the talk about how we want gender roles to be more open. I think when that conversation started, it was good. We don't want, men to be bottling up emotions and then exploding. We don't want women to, feel less than in the eyes of the law and stuff like that. But just like everything else, it went too far. It went too far. And then there's other things like people bring up things like there's all these plastics in the water and the types of foods that we're eating that are messing with our hormones, and it's creating more of the femininity in boys that now is more accepted, and vice versa, masculinity in girls. Then so it seems like it's a hodgepodge of a bunch of different things, which is why I don't necessarily want to pin it the beginning of the slippery slope on marriage equality, because it doesn't follow. It doesn't follow. That was not a very, comparatively, but it wasn't a very sexualized thing, and it had nothing to do with children. I think it would be disingenuous to say it's not a part of it at all. But I'm not ready to point and be like, see, we never should have let the gays get married. I'm not ready to say that. Zippy says, what I mean by an issue, people would not overthink it and deal with it as a normal thing. Yeah, but they would something else that we now deal with as a normal thing, we would make that an issue instead of the trans. There would be an issue. They would make an issue.
And so my interpretation of this is why it blew my mind. Like, there's the whole thing is a culture bound syndrome.
Yeah.
Like all of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know.
Okay. So would there be, then the question is, would there be a way to test that? Is there a test for that?
If there's not, then we have to go with not mutilating children because we don't know.
I guess it would come down to really the biological measures you're using to determine, or the psychological measures of tests that are given at an early age or something like that. Yeah,
So
that's a
what-
good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
how you
What
test
would
that
be a good
hypothesis.
test? But
Oh, shit. I keep forgetting I forgot to tell you guys on Monday. I'm telling you now. I'm going to tell you on Friday as well. Next week, I'm going to try something. I'm going to try to do the show at 6 p.m. Eastern. So we're going 2 hours earlier. Not Friday, but next week, and just next week, depending on how it goes. So next Monday, next Wednesday, next Friday, we'll be here at 6 p.m., not 8 p.m. I mean, we'll still be here by 8 p.m., but come through if you can.
But it never occurred to me. And I told a friend of mine, I asked a friend of mine who's a professor, who has a PhD in anthropology. I'm like, all of this is like literally all of it?
Maybe.
And this individual said to me, well, if you think gender is a construct, then wouldn't it naturally follow that it was?
Yeah, except it's not just a construct. It's also very much grounded in biology. Or else, why would the transitioners need to transition physically?
They don't. That's the point. If gender is made up, then saying I need to be this specific thing that you made up doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why can't you just be a femme-ass dude? Why can't you just be a butch-ass chick? We know a bunch of bitch-ass chicks, but why can't you just be a butch-ass chick? Just do that. All it does is create these, you have to look at certain stereotypes of the other sex and appropriate them. But I thought cultural appropriation was wrong. Oh, only when it's not them doing it. Got it.
If it's nothing to do with biology, why do you have to get breast implants to feel more female?
You don't.
Why do you want to wear a dress? Why do you want to grow your hair long? These secondary sex characteristics are part of the gender identity, and those are biologically driven. So it's such a mixed thing, and we're in the middle of this.
It's really not. It's really not that mixed of a thing. Gender, fine, I'll accept. Gender and sex are different despite the fact that they are very closely tied. We didn't make the women's bathroom because sometimes men like to wear dresses. But we all understand what the women's room is. We all understand what women's sports is for. Except for Leah Thomas. But the fact is, if you're not comfortable in your skin, then nothing you do to your skin is going to make you comfortable in it. That's the misconception from the very fundamental thing. Oh, I have to change my body. It's not an issue with your body. It's an issue with your mind. And I'm not saying that as a slur or to put anybody down. I suffer from anxiety and I address the anxiety. I don't fucking do something to my what? That wouldn't even make any sense.
Part of the problem, we did a whole issue
Shout out again to Dave Smith and part of the problem.
Of Skeptic on trans. There's not much data on most of these issues. I mean, how many detransitioners are there? I don't
Lots. And lots more coming.
know. Nobody knows.
Well,
We have lots of anecdotes.
there are reasons for people. There are reasons for that. But yeah.
Yeah, well, in part because it's so new. It's just starting to happen. Maybe people just started the transition a few years ago, so they're just starting to detransition now. Could be most of them detransition. Could be almost none of them. We just don't know.
He's right, we don't know. But if we're talking about the Bayesian scale, the probability, pretty up there.
So a lot of our conversation is driven by
Yeah.
a lack of data.
Yeah, and then we would need to make some kind of a calculus. I don't know how we would make this, but the number of people who were wrong and basically could never have they got their genitals mutilated, they could never have an orgasm, they could never have children, so we'd need that versus the number of people, if this is has a biological basis or whatever, would need to kind of weigh those. I guess maybe that would be an argument for a better filter to filter out who is quote unquote legitimately trans. But for that, you'd need a test. So then, all right,
and we don't have that test. So the conclusion should be, well, we just can't tell. So due to the Hippocratic Oath, we are not going to harm you because you have a mental affliction. We want to help you. We don't want to harm you. And cutting up your body is not going to help you. It might in the short term, but so will anything else that gets you a lot of online attention. Do anything else. We should do this. We should take 1,000 kids who think they're trans and socially transition them. Just social, outside, no surgeries, no hormones or anything like that. Pronouns, the whole thing, but nothing that they're, nothing irreversible. Then we take another 1,000 kids and, just don't let them transition and go through therapy and all this other stuff. And then in 10 years, not 3, not 5, but 10 years, we see what are the rates of self-deletion, what are the rates of transition, detransition, gay, straight. That is how this should be done. If y'all are saying that this is such a huge issue, then do the study. Stop looking for shortcuts and demanding that what you believe should be law. What you believe based on nothing should be the cultural norm. And I'm specifically using words that if you play back what I just said and you apply it to religion, it works too.
it's
complicated.
Oh, sorry, I missed a couple of these. Zippy says, dress is not a biology thing. It's very much a social construct. Everyone wore dresses thousands of years ago. I do try and split the difference in actions and behaviors and biology. Exactly. All I'm saying is that I'm agreeing that the wearing dresses is part of the social construct. That does not make you a woman. So if you like wearing dresses, then just wear dresses. Full stop. We don't need to go any further. If you're comfortable in dresses, then wear dresses. If you're still unhappy, then I'm going to tell you something. It wasn't the dress, and going further down that road is not going to help any more than the dress did. Nick said, when I was in high school, guys were more open with emotions than earlier generations, but we were still guys. But the girls were not seeming to benefit unless sleeping around was beneficial. Yeah, that was not until the millennials. We're like, yo, let's go, boss girl, hot girl summer. Yeah.
Okay, so then there's, again, they may be just gay. most of them may just
Most
be
of
gay.
them, over 50%.
And that if you just do the watchful waiting, the medical model of watchful waiting, they just turn out to be gay, and that's perfectly fine. It's totally acceptable. Now,
Yes, it is perfectly fine and totally acceptable. So why are you so desperate not to be that?
now and so on. Maybe some of it is, these guys who are autogynephiliate,
Right.
who are aroused
Right.
sexually by feeling like they're female or dressing.
I'm reading a book about that now. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Anyway, so, but I mean, we know that that is not a acceptable hypothesis for those who identify as trans.
Excuse me, Mr. Transphobe. Who are you to tell anyone how they should identify and why? If I feel, if I get off by having people think that I'm a woman, who are you to say that I can't identify the way that I want? See how silly this is? Come on, guys.
Because it sounds like it's just a kind of a perverted sexual kink.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like what I'm experiencing is a sexual kink.
Yeah.
So there's been pushback. Like Michael Bailey, that was Michael Bailey's hypothesis. He's a gay guy. He thinks these are just gay guys that like dressing up because they get off on it. They're not really women. But the trans women, these are guys, male to female trans, who identify as women now, they're going, hey, they don't like that hypothesis. You're just telling me I'm a sort of a sex kink. And
so you're telling me that within those who identify as trans, there's different types of people. And they're not all exactly the same. That some of them want to trans your child, and some of them are confused and just want to live a happy life. That's what it comes down to, guys. Until we are able to make that distinction and have people understand that distinction, we are barking at a wall. Because the people on the other side of this, it is too easy for them to characterize our position as just transphobia. You're transphobic. No. It's too easy when we don't differentiate. So again, I will highlight the fact that we need to differentiate between the people who just are otherwise normal people who are living their lives and happen to have a different sexual orientation or a gender identity, and the people who are trying to trans your kids. They are not the same group. The former, I have no problem with. The latter, I will die on that hill. I will continue to talk about how horrible they are for society. But if we can't get on the same page, then I'm shouting in the wind. Nick says, instead of supporting the women, people stop letting them fail. I don't know what that means. But it's, again, this is something, it's not like this is brand new information. It's not like this isn't something that we don't talk about all the time, but we have to talk about it all the time. Because as much as you guys know that this is happening, 3 days from now, if something doesn't come across your feed or your screen, if this doesn't show you something about trans in the next 3 days, you're going to forget. There's so much happening. There's so much happening that we have to constantly talk about the things that are important to us. Because what is most important to me is going to be different than what's most important to you. Than what's going to be most important to Zippy and Nick and all of you guys. We're all going to have different things. And so as long as we come together and continue to talk about those things, then we can get shit done. If you're not trying to get shit done, I don't know what you're doing. But I am trying to get shit done. So if you guys are down with that, thank you so much for supporting me. Big shout out to Unwanted Foe, and a huge shout out to the sponsor of the stream, Indie Film. Thank you so much, guys. I would not be able to do this without you. And I know none of you can support the show, and that is totally fine. As long as you're here with me, you are, commenting and helping the conversation, sharing the video. That share button is huge. just coming and hanging out with me. Guys, that means so much to me. I really want to thank you for hanging out with me yet again. I really got to find a way to get Morty in the frame, because it seems like that's the only thing you guys will pay for. But I'll figure it out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Once again, I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.